Ammonia.
Whew. That's literally what it smells like inside the Red Pyramid.
Really?
Yeah.
You're just constantly
100%
smelling salts?
And I've spent hours inside the Red Pyramid. And people try to say,
Bro,
again, we should be rolling right now for this conversation.
What a great product idea for you, dude.
Yeah. Red Pyramid
salts.
smelling salts. Yeah.
Land of Chem.
Yeah.
Red Pyramid salt. You could have a flavor for every pyramid.
Yeah. But no, that's 100% what it smells like inside the Red Pyramid, which is pure chemical ammonia smell. Yeah, let me hit that one more time.
Ow.
All right, we'll blast off into outer space here as we kick off the recording.
Oh, God, that'll send you somewhere. Land of
Makes my face tingle. Live in the building, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome back,
The
Lord
Epic
Geoffrey.
Part 2. Thank you, sir. My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me back on.
Yeah, my
all
pleasure,
the way
bro.
from Egypt.
We are back, baby, and we have a ton of shit to cover today.
Yeah. Shit makes my face tingle.
So you were just saying before we started that these smelling salts smell just like the inside of the Red Pyramid?
Correct. Yeah, it's pure chemical ammonia, right? And people say that this smell is because of bats. Dude, I've been in plenty of structures in Egypt where there's an abundant amount of bats, and it smells like a rodent cage. It has a very animalistic urine and feces type smell. Inside the Red Pyramid is 100% pure chemical ammonia. And anybody that's been on my tours or anybody that's been inside of the Red Pyramid will corroborate that it is a very intense, pure chemical ammonia smell. And of course, we have tons of chemical analysis data that supports the conclusion that the smell and the staining inside the Red Pyramid has absolutely nothing to do with bats. It's been proven with chemical analysis data. It is 100% the result of the chemical reactions that were occurring inside of the structure, with the smell emanating from the final synthesis chamber.
So we have a long list of shit that we want to cover today. I think you texted me a list of like 50 items.
Yeah.
We had to narrow it down so we wouldn't have a 12-hour podcast.
Yeah.
And we're going to do our best.
It's going to be epic.
To keep this organized and stay on topic with each topic and you know, maybe hit them for like 15, 20 minutes each.
Yep.
Keep going. We got a ton of stuff from Japan to the Serappeum to lightning stuff to these chambers that were found under this pyramid, the SAR scans.
Yeah. Speaking of, I brought you a present, right? Because I always like to bring gifts. I see you still have my scarab sitting over there.
Yes, I do.
This is for after the podcast, a little victory cigar.
Oh, hell yes,
And
brother.
the first time I tried that particular cigar was actually in Malta, where I was invited to attend the exclusive SAR conference when they released a bunch of the data that we'll see at the end of the episode when we talk about the SAR scans.
You were there at the first
I
conference.
was there, correct, yeah. Their first public international conference. That's a fantastic cigar.
Thank you,
You'll really enjoy that one.
I cannot wait to
Yeah,
light that
my pleasure.
bastard up. But first of all,
Yes.
to start this thing off, I completely butchered
I'm glad you said it and not me.
I butchered your theory when I was on Rogan's podcast.
Yeah.
So just give us like a quick elevator pitch for people. Let's treat this as a brand new podcast, right? For people that haven't heard about your theory before, haven't seen your work before, just give people a very high level summary of what you believe the purpose of the Egyptian pyramids was.
Yeah. So first and foremost, thank you so much for even bringing it up in that public forum. I really appreciate it. You've been such an advocate and supporter of my work. Even before I came on the first podcast that we did here, you were promoting and supporting my work. So I really appreciate that. Any mention is a good mention, but it is good to do a quick refresher. So my work focuses on the function of ancient structures around the world, not just the Egyptian pyramids and not just the Great Pyramid. I've proposed hypotheses from everything from stone circles and obelisks, passage chamber reactors like Newgrange, the Serappeum, the Hypogeum, the Osirion, Step Pyramid, Red Pyramid, Bent Pyramid, Great Pyramid, Central Pyramid, and the list goes on and on from there. We're also going to talk about today the Teotihuacan complex in Mexico, which in the context of today's episode, I'll present two new theories. Nobody that I know of has proposed a hypothesis for the function of the Serappeum, nor has anyone presented a cohesive hypothesis for the function of the Teotihuacan complex. So I'm going to present those here today, brand new revelations that I've been working on recently. But long story short, the overview of the function of the Egyptian pyramids are a series of industrial scale chemical reactors, starting with the Step Pyramid that was utilized for the extraction of bedrock deposits of methane. That methane was converted into ammonia inside the red pyramid. The bent pyramid took that ammonia solution and converted it into urea, a solid compound fertilizer. And then on the Giza Plateau, we have our metallurgy and mining acid extraction chemical manufacturers. The Great Pyramid producing sulfuric acid and the Central Pyramid producing hydrochloric acid. And my work in progress hypothesis for the final pyramid, the third pyramid, is that it was producing a basic solution to neutralize those two acidic compounds.
Okay, so the Great Pyramid was sulfuric acid.
Sulfuric acid, correct.
And the middle one was
hydrochloric acid.
Hydrochloric.
Yes.
And the small one,
a basic solution.
just
So
a basic
in terms
solution.
of,
Okay.
I haven't come to a final conclusion on the exact chemical compound that was in the final pyramid. But if you have, for example, a leach mining complex where you're doing in situ chemical manufacturing, it would make a lot of sense to have two acidic compounds and one basic. Because at some point you want to neutralize the reaction and stop the vitriolic effects of the acidic solutions by neutralizing it with a basic compound.
Okay.
And I would hypothesize that that process was utilizing the byproduct of the hydrochloric acid manufacturing inside the central pyramid, which is sodium bisulfate.
Okay. And
So something like sodium hydroxide.
And the purpose of all these chemicals, this
Yes.
chemical manufacturing plant, which were the Great Pyramids, you believe that the purpose was there's a multitude of factors, but number one was fertilizer, and then number two was metallurgy.
Correct. Yeah. So basic applications starting with domestic methane, right? Natural gas. We still use natural gas today for heating, lighting, all sorts of domestic applications.
Methane went to ammonia.
Correct.
Right?
And methane is also an industrial synthesis gas that is utilized to produce other industrial chemicals. In this instance, they're converting the methane into ammonia inside the red pyramid. And the red pyramid and bent pyramid are fertilizer manufacturing compounds. Now, ammonia has a vast array of different applications, and we'll talk about some that are beyond the scope of my work, which is very, I've had it described as rational, practical, and mundane. So there are some far out there applications for ammonia and methane, like rocket fuel. So people have proposed.
This whole theory is not sensational enough. There's no place to plug in aliens.
Well, so we can get into that discussion if you'd like. So it's,
I'm not saying there has to be.
Right. But it certainly is a correlation because I'll show when we get to the Great Pyramid, there's a research article that says the first thing that we would do if we were traveling to the moon, Mars, or asteroids, the first thing we would do is build facilities for in situ chemical manufacturing and mining operations. Because we don't want to bring all the equipment that we need if we're going to inhabit extraterrestrial planets.
Right.
You want to be able to manufacture everything that you need on site.
Right.
So if there was an extraterrestrial civilization that came here, the first thing that they would do is build industrial, in situ, chemical manufacturing and mining operations so that they could produce all of the chemicals that they need and mine metals and all these sort of things.
Wow.
Yeah. So again, we'll talk about the Haber-Bosch process.
That's interesting.
How Fritz Haber may have actually been inspired by reverse engineering the Red Pyramid.
Fritz Haber, yeah.
And so this also brings up a discussion of the Kardashev scale of advanced civilizations. Are you familiar with this scale? Okay, so the Kardashev scale of advanced civilizations is type 1, type 2, and type 3. A Kardashev type 1 civilization is an advanced civilization that has the capability of harnessing all of the power and natural resources of the planet of inhabitants for all of the applications that would be beneficial to the society.
Okay.
We are rated as a 0.73 on the Kardashev scale. We are not yet a type 1 civilization, so we haven't mastered our ability to harness all of the power and natural resources here on the planet. But what we're going to talk about today is how this ancient civilization was as close, if not even superior to where we are for the optimization and utilization of all of Earth's natural resources for the function of these ancient structures around the world.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I like the theory lately that we came from Mars. And that there was a nuclear war on Mars and they found Earth, but it was too inhabitable because there were too many volcanoes and earthquakes and shit like that. So they're like, let's put this fucking circular moon.
Right.
So
the moon is crazy.
Around it.
And one of my favorite guests that you've had on is Jason Giorgiani. I love when he gets into talking about Mars and the moon, and he's an exceptional guest. Very cool guy.
He gets very deep. Yeah, he's the one who explained all this stuff to me, dude.
Yeah. One of my favorites that you've had on so far. Yeah. So this is just talking about the Kardashev scale. So
I've heard Michio Kaku talk about this. Type 1, type
So
2.
a type 2 civilization would get into where they can harness the power of the sun. So things like Dyson spheres. A Dyson sphere is a hypothetical apparatus that could harness the power of the sun for power. Wow. And then a type 3 is a galactic civilization. So they say that human beings today are about 300 years away from becoming an actual type 1 civilization. And I'll show you in the process of the conversation today how the ancient technology on this planet is indicative of the type of activities that would be performed by a type 1 civilization. They were harnessing Earth for power sources, for natural resource implementation, for construction materials, and also tapping into subterranean resources like methane gas and hydrogen sulfide, which below the Giza Plateau, there's a natural cave and tunnel system that is the source of hydrogen sulfide gas that was utilized within the Great Pyramid to produce sulfuric acid. And I'll show you a paper that proves that there are caves and tunnels and hydrothermal vent systems below the Giza Plateau, natural geological formations. But we have the source, this gas natural resource coming from the Earth below the Giza Plateau that is the source of the sulfur in hydrogen sulfide gas that was utilized in the Great Pyramid to produce sulfuric acid.
Interesting.
Yeah, dude, I'm going to go hard today. Yeah.
You're my tour guide, baby.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's jump in face first.
All right, so the first thing I want to talk about, so I may have showed this slide, the first artifact that ever changed my mind regarding the function of the Egyptian pyramids, this collection bowl at Abu Sir. So really, this is just a demonstration of the implementation of the different colors of the construction materials. Are you familiar with the story of Atlantis?
Yes.
Okay, so they say that Atlantis was made of 3 different colors of stone: black, white, and red. The Egyptian pyramids and the adjacent pyramid complexes are all made of 3 different colors of stone: black, white, and red. Namely, black basalt, white limestone, red quartzite, and red granite.
Okay.
So there's a direct connection between the mythology of Atlantis and the 3 colors utilized in the construction of the Egyptian pyramids. We also use this same color coding system for our modern electrical wiring: black, white, and red. And I use that phrase, color coding, intentionally because there is information stored in this color coding system that tells you exactly what each type of stone is for. All 3 of these type of stones are dielectrics, which mean that they can store electric fields. Granite, limestone, and basalt are all dielectric materials. They're not electrical conductors. They are electrical insulators that when you induce an electric field, it will store and hold on to that electric field within the material. Okay. So limestone is your primary electric field storage component. Red granite is utilized for the production of ultrasound, and black basalt is a material that was used for heat storage. And I'm going to show research papers in the context of this presentation that will corroborate that hypothesis.
Okay.
So anytime you see white in a pyramid, you know it's for storing electric fields. Anytime you see red, it's for the production of ultrasound. And anytime you see black, think heat storage.
Got it.
So there's information and communication encoded in this color coding system that tells us exactly what these stones are for. Pretty wild stuff. And we'll also get to into the context of today's conversation, how the pyramids were integrating natural resources that are found abundantly in Egypt for this chemical manufacturing process. So for example, we have sulfur, air, water, natural gas, right? All of these are earth natural resources. And each one of the structures in Egypt was designed to harness these earth natural resources. So for example, the step pyramid was used to extract bedrock deposits of methane. The Serappeum used water and ultrasound to produce hydrogen and oxygen. The red pyramid was using hydrogen and nitrogen for the production of ammonia. the Great Pyramid, sulfur and air to produce sulfuric acid. And then you can take those two, sulfuric acid and ammonia products, and convert it into ammonium sulfate, which is another ammonium-based fertilizer compound.
Right.
So basically, the premise for my hypothesis and the comparison to a Kardashev Type 1 civilization is that whoever built these things here on the planet, believe what you may about whoever built these things, they were very, very close to a Kardashev Type 1 civilization where they were harnessing all of Earth's natural resources and implementing them in the function of these structures for a variety of beneficial applications. So they were using Earth's natural electricity as the power source. The Egyptian pyramids are not producing electricity. The output, the product of the pyramids is chemicals. They were using the input of Earth's natural electricity. That's the whole premise of these advanced civilizations, is that you don't need to produce power when you can harness the power of the planet.
Right.
And that's exactly what this civilization was doing, utilizing telluric currents and lightning as the power source that drives the function of these structures, whether it comes to stone circles, passage chamber reactors, or the Egyptian pyramids. All the mechanisms of operation are the same.
Incognito mode does not make you invisible to the internet. It does not keep anyone from watching you. Google recently settled a $5 billion lawsuit for being accused of tracking users that were browsing using incognito mode. Their defense was incognito does not mean invisible. I switched to ExpressVPN after Pierogi from Scammer Payback told me he always has a VPN active. Your internet provider, mobile network, and Wi-Fi admins can see your activity information you share, like your name, your address, your bank information. Just today, Steve received a scammer gift at his house. It came with a QR code to scan that will steal everything from your bank account. That's why I use ExpressVPN. It creates a secure, encrypted barrier between your device and the internet, so your data stays private. It works on everything: phones, laptops, tablets, and it's easy to use. You open the app, hit one button, and boom, you're protected. It's even rated #1 by CNET and The Verge. ExpressVPN has been a huge source of relief, and I no longer have to worry about scams. I use their Identity Defender plan, which scrubs all my information, keeping it safe and protected from data brokers. And their VPN keeps me and my family protected. And they had their lowest price ever now. Plans start at just $3.49 a month, which is 12 cents a day. Secure your online data by visiting expressvpn.com/Danny Jones. That's expressvpn.com/Danny Jones to find out how you can get up to 4 extra months. expressvpn.com/Danny Jones. So do you think it's possible that there was any sort of connection? Do you think the pyramids were possibly using some sort of like seismic vibration of the igneous rock under it at all?
No, but I will get into, when we talk about Pyramid Coromanta in Japan, how it's possibly built on top of a geothermal formation where they may have been using volcanic formations that are also sources of sulfur gas, which are all, you ever heard of the sulfur springs in Japan? These things are all over the place.
Right.
And there's good, strong evidence that supports the hypothesis that the Japanese Pyramid Coromanta, which has internal red granite reaction chambers that are similar to the Great Pyramid, that they built that thing on top of a geothermal sulfur gas source. So not necessarily seismic waves, but certainly geothermal activity.
Right.
And again, the primary power source being telluric currents and lightning, because there's a direct connection between telluric currents, subterranean natural resources like water, and metal ore mineral deposits, the location for lightning strikes, and the recirculation of this electric current into the earth.
Right.
So the second thing that they were using were conductivity enhancers, like subterranean water and metal ore minerals, to facilitate the uptake of telluric currents. And I'll talk about this here in just a second, how that connects to all of the stone circle sites, and also all of the Egyptian pyramids are connected into this same power source. So again, one of the most important things for me when it comes to a cohesive hypothesis on the function of ancient structures around the world, the mechanisms of operation that drive the structures have to be consistent across the board. That's why I disagree with hypotheses that focus only on the Great Pyramid, because they ignore the big picture. And the mechanisms of operation that they say are related to the Great Pyramid specifically don't apply to any of the other pyramids, and they don't apply to more ancient structures like stone circles. But according to my research, there's a direct connection in the function of stone circles that leads to the apex implementation of the technology in the Egyptian pyramids. Same mechanisms, same power source, same knowledge, same pattern of thinking went into designing stone circles and the function, for example, of the Great Pyramid.
Did you say that you've been building your own copy of one of these pyramids?
Yeah, so we have a 1:40 scale model of the Red Pyramid of Dashur, and I'll show you the video here in just a little bit of this model in operation. It took over a year to build this thing.
And the Red Pyramid made methane?
Ammonia. Correct. So I'm going to show some.
How long does it take you to build that?
Dude, it took this guy forever. I didn't build it.
Oh, you didn't do it.
Shout out to a friend and supporter of the channel, John Sage. This guy is an absolute saint. And he took his own spare time building this thing, component after component after component.
Whoa.
And it is an immaculate 1:40 scale model of the internal reaction chambers of the Red Pyramid. And it works exactly as I've proposed. Jumping ahead in the conversation, I did some mathematical calculations that demonstrate the temperature and pressure capabilities of the reaction chambers inside the Red Pyramid. These chambers are capable of generating approximately 500 degrees Celsius temperature and more than 40 atmospheres of pressure inside the reaction chambers.
Wow.
500 degrees C.
That's a lot of
and
pressure.
40 atmospheres of pressure, which gets into a discussion of the function of the pyramid body. The core body of the pyramids has a function.
Yeah.
So it was brought up on Rogan. He was like, if they're just making fertilizers, why do they need such a big body of stone surrounding the Egyptian pyramids? There's several very, very good reasons. First one, to maintain the pressure. There were huge amounts of pressure occurring inside of these reaction chambers.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the pyramid body encasing the whole system, it'll completely explode.
Right.
Second thing, eliminating atmospheric contamination and pollution, right? You're producing chemicals and you don't want those chemicals leaking out into the atmosphere. For example, methane, ammonia, or, sulfur-based gas or hydrogen chloride. You do not want that stuff getting into the atmosphere. So you have to have a big body of stone encasing your internal reaction chambers to prevent environmental contamination. Third reason being the stabilization of the internal reaction chambers while they were in operation.
Sure.
They aren't just standalone structures. You have to have a core surrounding it.
Yeah.
Then we'll also get into the tetrahedral shape, right? The pyramid shape itself has a function. And it's a very, very specific reason why they used a pyramid, which is for concentration of electric fields around specific reaction chambers.
Also, if it was a chemical manufacturing plant, why is it aligned with the constellation Orion's belt?
So it's not.
It's not?
No.
That's fake news?
You talking about the King's Chamber shafts? I'll show.
I don't know. I thought
the King's Chamber.
I thought the pyramid.
So the pyramid complex on Giza itself.
Yes.
Right. That may be the case. And in terms of alchemy during the medieval period, everything was done in conjunction with the celestial alignments. So, for example, if you're an alchemist during the medieval period, you want to harvest your dew during certain phases of the moon.
Right.
And different conjunctions with different planets, they believe that had a direct effect on the chemistry. And this is true from the perspective of the electric universe theory, that our solar system is an interconnected electromagnetic circuit.
So you're saying people during medieval times,
the alchemists,
the
proto-chemists, all alchemy is done in conjunction with the stars.
But what do they have to do with the pyramids being lined up with the...
It's the same thing. It's the legacy of ancient chemistry, starting with the Egyptian pyramids, went underground during the dynastic period, and it later became the alchemy of the medieval European period, proto-chemistry. Alchemy is chemistry.
Right. No, I understand
under
that.
a veil of spiritual ascension.
So you're saying the people during the medieval alchemists somehow got some sacred knowledge from the Egyptians?
100%.
Where did they get that?
It's through a long legacy of you could call it secret societies, but the alchemists from Egypt became the later alchemists of the medieval European period through a long legacy of passing the knowledge on.
Orally?
Yes, orally, and also in sacred encoded alchemical texts. You know, the Arabs were the origin civilization that started chemistry. It started in Egypt. Actual chemistry.
Right.
Egypt is the birthplace of
they
chemistry.
call it land of chem, right?
Well, so the word KHEM,
right,
the original name for Egypt, is the etymological root word for chemistry. And Egypt is the birthplace of conventional chemistry. They were the first civilization to manufacture synthetic pigments. They made cosmetics. They made pharmaceuticals. All of these are chemical disciplines.
Right.
And in my opinion, the chemistry of the dynastic civilization is an inherited legacy of the Egyptian pyramids, which were no longer functional during the dynastic period, but they were still doing chemistry on a small scale.
Interesting.
Then that was inherited by the Greeks and the Romans, who came along and inhabited Egypt later. We see that legacy of chemistry in the Greek and Roman period in artifacts like the Lycurgus cup. Are you familiar with the Lycurgus cup? So it's a glass that contains nanoparticles of gold. The Lycurgus cup. Yeah. So it changes color based on certain wavelengths of light. And that red color that you can see there is because of nanoparticles of gold. The only way to produce gold nanoparticles is by using chemistry. You have to dissolve.
When was this made?
This is a Roman artifact.
No way.
Yeah. So this legacy of
So
chemistry.
they drank their Theriac out of this shit.
Yeah, I would love to have that thing. I would love to have it. But the reason it turns red is because of gold nanoparticles.
Okay.
The only way that you can produce gold nanoparticles is by dissolving gold in a solution of aqua regia, which is a combination of hydrochloric acid and nitric acid. So they inherited this legacy of chemistry that then was passed on in a small scale through the European medieval time into these alchemists, which developed into our modern day chemistry.
Interesting.
So it's an unbroken legacy tracing from dynastic Egypt that developed into modern chemistry. And the origin of all of this is in the Egyptian pyramids.
Do you think the dynastic Egyptians knew how to operate all this shit? Or do you think it was before them?
I think they were inoperational before the dynastic period started.
When do you think
they knew about it? The priest class and the initiates and the alchemists of the dynastic period most likely inherited the knowledge of how the Egyptian pyramids operated.
When's your best guess when they were built?
So my research focuses on the Saharan humid period from 8500 BC to 5300 BC. So let me give you the brief overview of the timeline.
Okay.
So right after the cataclysm at the end of the last ice age, the survivors of that civilization started to implement their knowledge of earth physics and construction materials, utilizing these natural resources to produce functional structures, starting with stone circles and passage chamber reactors. So let's say circa 10,000 BC, they were building stone circles and passage chamber reactors like Newgrange that are proto-pyramids. These passage chamber reactors evolved over about 2,000 to 2,500 years into the apex pinnacle execution of this physics and chemistry technology in the Egyptian pyramids.
Okay.
So it took 2,000 years of development to go from passage chamber reactors to Egyptian pyramids. The pyramids being operational from around 8,500 BC to 5,300 BC. And around 5,300 BC, we see the end of the Saharan humid period. That somewhat marks the beginning of the dynastic period around 3,500 BC.
Interesting.
And I'll get into this a little bit more. I have some slides that talk about.
So what was Giza? What did Giza look like around 8,500 BC?
It would have not been a desert.
No.
It would have been a lush, fertile environment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And how do you think they've moved all that shit?
The stones?
Yeah.
So the core, so there's a big myth about the construction of the Egyptian pyramids that they moved, yeah. Prepare for a lot of debunking in today's episode. That they moved 2 million stones 500 miles.
Yeah.
That's not true.
No?
So, for example, the Giza pyramids, all of the limestone blocks in the core of the pyramids themselves were quarried directly from Giza.
What?
That's 100% a fact. The core blocks that you can see here.
These exterior blocks?
No, this is core. This is the core masonry. This is a picture of the Great Pyramid.
Yes.
Right.
But I'm
it
talking
would
about,
have had casing stones.
It would have had casing stones on top of this.
Correct. Yeah.
So all the blocks we're looking at right here came from
were
we're
quarried directly from the Giza Plateau. They have the source of the quarries. There are 3 different quarries on the Giza Plateau.
Really?
Correct. All of the core blocks came from a couple hundred meters away, and they moved them directly into the core of the pyramids.
And what about the granites in the King's Chamber?
The granite is the only thing that came from Aswan.
Okay, so that's the heaviest shit, though.
So let me clarify here to be very, very specific. So the core masonry came from local quarries at the construction site. Mm-hmm. The Tura limestone casing came from Tura on the west side of the Nile River, not very far from Giza. Black basalt came from quarries in Wadi El Faras, which is kind of near the Suez Canal.
How far away?
About it's pretty far. Same distance as Aswan. Like,
oh, wow.
Hundreds of kilometers away. And then the red granite came from quarry in Aswan.
Okay.
But remember, the Nile flows from south to north.
How wide is the Nile?
It was huge. I don't know the exact measurements of the Nile, but
so you could throw that shit on a raft?
Of course. And the quarry, for example, the unfinished obelisk quarry is almost right near the edge of the river. And it's downhill from the quarry to the river.
Interesting.
So there's some mythology about moving these huge obelisks 500 kilometers over mountains. Nothing was ever moved over any mountains in Egypt.
Not here. In Central America, it's a different story.
Central America is different. We're talking specifically about the location of the construction materials used in the pyramids.
God damn, bro.
Yeah,
Imagine
but no, there's
throwing all those fucking stones on a raft and floating them down the goddamn Nile.
Yeah.
That's astonishing.
Huge boats. And not necessarily raft either.
Right, we're talking about
boats,
like wooden
shipping boats.
Well, I mean, to put giant chunks of stone like that, I'd imagine they're big, flat pieces of wood that they're all built up to float.
Yeah, so the Romans had something that's very similar to a pontoon boat, where they have 2 big flotillas on each side.
Yeah,
and the piece of stone that they were moving was put in the middle. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you look up Roman stone moving ships. Yeah, you can see some images.
Have
of
you seen the thunderstone?
ones.
The depictions of how they moved that thunderstone.
Yeah, they did that with very primitive techniques to move that thing.
It was like tracks.
With stone rollers. Yeah, or not stone rollers, but metal rollers.
Yeah.
Insane. You would have to.
Sorry, I don't want to spend a bunch of time searching the internet.
But they moved them up the river.
Right.
Down the river.
Because
it flows from
south to north.
To south. Down.
It flows from south to north.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, we're on the same page.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Perfect.
Correct. Yeah.
It empties out into the Mediterranean.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. So they were flowing with the current.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh,
but again, all of the core stones were local quarries on site.
Okay.
Yeah.
At this point in my life, if you open up any of my kitchen cabinets and you find a pot or a pan that isn't hex-clad, it's just because I haven't had time to throw it out yet. The first time I cooked on these things, it felt like cheating. They look slick, they feel heavy and rugged, and they sear better than anything I've ever owned. I literally caught myself admiring my frying pan the other day, and my wife had to snap me out of it. Holiday season is when your cookware gets tested. Big roasts, game day spreads, all the Christmas chaos, and if your pans freak out at high heat or weld gravy to the bottom like concrete, it's time for an upgrade. Hexclad gives you everything. Stainless steel strength, toxin-free non-stick, crazy durability, and cleanup that takes about 10 seconds. They perform like pro pans and they look sexy as hell sitting on your stovetop. And it's the first cookware I've ever been tempted to show off to my friends. Their 6-piece and 12-piece sets are perfect for you or the lucky chef in your life. Every piece comes with a lifetime warranty, so this is cookware you'll use for years, not just a season. For a limited time, Hexclad is having a huge holiday sale. Head on over to hexclad.com/Danny to get up to 50% off. And if you've been waiting for the perfect time to buy, this is it. That's hexclad.com/Danny for up to 50% off. And after you purchase, they're going to ask where you heard about them. Please support this show by telling them we sent you. Hexclad's link down below. Now back to the show.
Okay, so let's get into fulgurites and proof of lightning on the Giza Plateau. So we have a bunch of chemical analysis data and samples that were taken from all around Giza. My hypothesis, again, for the power source of all of these structures around the world comes from below, from telluric currents, and from above, from lightning. It's a 2-part power source where the telluric currents provide the initial charge.
Okay.
And then the lightning pushes everything to completion and is the discharge phase of operation. So we have charging and discharging, as above, so below.
Okay.
Okay, so on the Giza Plateau, we have chemical analysis that were taken from the iron veins. And we'll get in. So my colleagues at the ACITA Project, it's an international research team that took a bunch of samples from 2010 to 2015, about 12 kilograms worth of samples.
Wow.
Were taken from all around
the
sites.
ACITA Project.
ISIDA. Yeah. Shout out to all of my colleagues who will remain nameless at the ACITA Project. You know who you are. Exceptional.
Why do you got to
work.
make them nameless?
Because it's an anonymous research organization.
Like a bunch of cowboys out there.
Something like that. Yeah. And what they did, I would say, is clandestine.
Ooh.
Not necessarily approved, but they did collect samples. So this is one of the sample locations on the Giza Plateau where we discovered silicate microspheres from fulgurites. So fulgurites are fossilized lightning, and this is a close-up image of one of these silicate microspheres. So when lightning hits the ground, the high voltage electric current surges through the ground and fuses the substrate material. And it produces these branch-like formations called fulgurites.
Right.
So we found fulgurites all over the Giza Plateau, which is direct evidence that lightning was striking on the Giza Plateau, specifically connected to the iron veins that are emanating from the core of the Great Pyramid and the Central Pyramid. So these iron veins have features like vitrification and melting. There are fulgurites embedded in these iron veins, which is evidence of this high voltage electric current from lightning surging through these veins. So the Giza iron veins are the wiring network that connect all of the structures on the Giza Plateau.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I'll get to the function of the boat pits as circuit breakers here in just a minute when we get to the boat pits.
Okay.
It's also a new hypothesis.
What are is that the pits that are on the outside base of the pyramids?
Correct, yes.
This is what Chris Dunn hypothesizes, that acids or chemicals could have been poured into those things, and they may have fed into the shafts like they go into the Queen's chamber.
Yeah, so I disagree with that hypothesis, but we are talking about the same features.
Okay.
Yeah, the boat pits.
Got it.
Yeah, I think they're circuit breakers.
Circuit breakers.
Correct. That control the allocation of voltage to different areas. And I've actually mapped the iron veins on the Giza Plateau, and those boat pits are cut into the bedrock in such a manner where they interrupt the veins. They cut right through the veins.
When you say iron veins, what do you mean specifically? Can you have pictures of this?
Yeah, of course I have pictures of it. Yeah, and we have chemical analysis data that shows exactly what these things are. So this is just an image that represents the charging and discharge process of telluric currents coming from above, coming from below, and lightning coming from above.
Okay.
So here's a couple of papers. So anybody that's new to my work, right? In the context of my research, I like to provide academic, scientific, research paper evidence that supports all of the claims that I make. There's a lot of people in the community of alternative ancient history that make wild speculations about the function of the Egyptian pyramids, and they never show any evidence. There are no research papers. There is no chemical analysis data. There is no academic support for these statements. So for me, in each step of the process in explaining this hypothesis, it's important for me to provide academic receipts for everything that I'm saying. Okay, so this is the first one regarding telluric currents. So telluric currents are just natural electric currents coming from the earth. And they
like this, you don't need to have this full. No one's going to.
Yeah, you don't have to read this. But this paper is saying that there's a direct correlation between the flow and concentration of telluric currents and subterranean natural resources like water and metal or mineral deposits, which is a direct connection to everything that we have on the Giza Plateau. And all of these ancient sites around the world are built on these subterranean deposits of water.
Right.
Okay. Next paper here, telluric and earth currents, lightning strike locations, and natural resource exploration. So the conclusion of this article states that cloud to ground lightning has a direct correlation to areas where telluric currents flow. And these telluric currents have a controlling impact. This is a quote directly from this paper, that telluric currents have a controlling impact on lightning strike locations. So what I'm here doing is establishing a case for the connection between telluric currents from below and lightning striking from above, because there's a direct connection between these two things. Sense. Right?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So from below, we have the charging that creates charge on the surface of the earth or on the surface of a structure. And then that negatively charged lightning is attracted to the positive charges that are developed by telluric currents. Right. There's another important quote here in this. I'm going to quote this directly, that geophysicists have known for decades that there's electric currents in the earth.
Yes.
Right? And these electric currents are modified by natural resources that can be resistive, like freshwater aquifers, oil, gas, and salt, or conductive, like brines, and minerals like copper, iron, lead, zinc, gold, silver, and rare earth. So basically, the paper is saying here that the flow of telluric currents is directly affected by these subterranean natural resources. And the areas where there are more of these subterranean natural resources experience greater concentration and flow of telluric currents.
Right.
So the paper specifically mentions subterranean water sources and metal or mineral deposits like copper, iron, lead, zinc, gold, silver, and rare earths. Okay. So this is the Hill of Tara in Ireland, one of the most powerful energetic sites in Ireland. You can see the wells all around the site, which are evidence of subterranean springs running below these structures. All of the stone circles, all of these ancient sites are built on top of electrically conductive subterranean water sources. So water itself, like distilled water, is not an electrical conductor. However, if you have mineral water that's filled with electrolytes, it is a good conductor of electricity.
What about deuterium?
So deuterium, you have to have stuff dissolved into the water. Deuterium, if I remember correctly, is H3O. Is that correct, Steve? Yeah, if I remember correctly, deuterium is H3O, not H2O.
Well, you can get water with like heavy deuterium and water with low, like no deuterium.
Correct.
They can deplete the deuterium.
So I'm not sure about the electrical conductivity of deuterium.
And it has to do with its location on the earth. Like very low deuterium water is found at like the poles, like up close to the North Pole, and then heavy deuterium water is down by the equator.
It's not H3O, it's H2O, but the H is
right.
It's a isotope
containing a proton and a neutron in its nucleus. But there was a connection between deuterium and those two guys who developed cold fusion. Allegedly.
Yeah. So I'm not sure about the electrical conductivity of deuterium as compared to regular water. And what I'm specifically referring to here in the context of ancient sites are natural mineral springs. So it's regular water that has a bunch of dissolved minerals in it. Like mineral water, mineral spring water is rich in electrolytes, which make it a very good conductor of electricity. So again, per this paper, they're saying that telluric currents flow easier and accumulate in areas where there are these subterranean conductive features, like mineral water. So here's a prime example of an ancient site that's built directly on top of these subterranean natural resources, conductive water. We have the same thing below the Giza Plateau. So we have chemical analysis from the water inside the Osiris shaft, and it is brackish water that has tons of dissolved, not tons, but
Salt water and fresh water?
Correct. Yeah. It's a mix of salt water and fresh water, which makes it a very good conductor of electricity.
Right.
Not pure water, but mineral water that is rich in salts and electrolytes and minerals. Okay. So the next thing here, Giza Plateau and all the Egyptian pyramids are directly connected to these sources of water. We have the Nile River. And here's an image comparing the configuration of the Giza Plateau and a modern chemical refinery, which are all located directly on the river.
It's crazy how close they are.
It's amazing, right? The comparison between modern industrial chemical manufacturing and the Egyptian pyramids. All these things are built with the same mindset because you need
even
a source
in Florida,
of water.
bro. Like all over Florida, you have all these chemical manufacturing plants, and you have all this farmland.
Correct.
They have to build fake irrigation all around it that drains out to the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah. So the same thing, right? And a lot of the things that we've implemented in our modern industrial scale engineering, in my opinion, can be traced back to the function of the Egyptian pyramids, a la Fritz Haber, who visited Egypt. Him and Karl Bosch both visited Egypt.
Explain to people who Fritz Haber is.
Fritz Haber is the guy who designed the Haber process, right? Our modern industrial process for manufacturing ammonia.
Right.
Which there's some very, very close similarities between the modern Haber process and the ancient manufacturing process that created the same product. The big difference being now we make liquid ammonia, which is supercooled ammonia gas. The ancient process made aqueous ammonia, which is ammonia gas dissolved in water. So there's a big difference there.
Right.
Okay, so here's me standing on the Giza Plateau in one of these iron deposits. You see all that red material on both sides of me?
The dark stuff?
Reddish brown material.
Yeah.
That is a huge deposit of iron ore. These things are all over the Giza Plateau. And we have chemical analysis data from these iron deposits that have rare earths. This is the concentration of the rare earth elements that were found in the boat pits.
Yeah.
So that paper just specifically referenced deposits like copper, iron, lead, zinc, silver, gold, and rare earths. We find all of these in the Giza Plateau iron veins.
Wow.
So again, now I'm just establishing a connection between telluric currents, subterranean natural resources, and the location for lightning strikes, because all of these three things are connected.
Right.
Right?
Makes sense. Got it.
So also in these iron veins, we have tin, nickel, lead. This one is platinum. This sample has almost 35% platinum. This one is silver. We have different concentrations of silver. This one's 41%. This one's 58%. This one's 70% silver. We also have gold. This one is 7%. This one's 32%. This one's 36%. And we have amalgams of silver and gold, electrum, found in these iron veins on the Giza Plateau.
Wow.
Okay, so now on the Giza Plateau, we have the optimal location for the concentration and uptake of telluric currents with these iron veins. The exact
Which means
same.
more lightning strikes.
Correct. Directly connected.
Okay.
Okay.
And what was the purpose of the lightning strikes? So they wanted more lightning.
Yeah.
What was the lightning doing exactly?
So concentrating electric fields inside of the structure. And I'm going to show you a paper in just a minute that proves that the Great Pyramid itself was designed with the specific geometry to concentrate electric fields in the area surrounding the king's chamber and the antechamber.
Okay.
So concentration and storage of electric fields that was induced by lightning. The pyramids,
To create ammonia and sulfuric acid.
Correct. Yes. Red Pyramid and Great Pyramid.
Hydrochloric acid.
Central Pyramid. Yes, correct. Yeah.
God damn.
Okay, so again, we were talking about the white, the black, and the red. The three colors.
Yeah.
Encoding knowledge of how each one operates. The limestone itself is for the concentration of those electric fields. And the paper I'll present here in just a little bit proves that.
Okay.
That the Great Pyramid, they only tested the geometry of the Great Pyramid, but I would hypothesize that this extrapolates to all of the pyramids, including the Red Pyramid, Bent Pyramid, and Central Pyramid.
Yeah.
That they all have specific geometry within the tetrahedron shape, like different slope angles.
Yeah.
So why are the Egyptian pyramids all different slope angles? They're all pyramids, but they're all slightly different. I believe that the
Well, I mean, the question is like, why were they different angles? Like, was that on purpose? Or
yeah,
was
it's
that
on
just by
purpose.
chance?
Yeah, so it adjusts the concentration of the electric fields. The slight variance in the geometry shifts the focus of the electric fields to the specific areas around the reaction chambers.
So are you talking about specifically the 3 on the Giza Plateau?
All of them.
All of the pyramids that exist out in Egypt.
Yeah.
We're all getting lightning bolts hitting them.
Not necessarily directly, but in the vicinity.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so the next thing here is...
That'd be a scary place to live back in the day.
So it actually would have been completely safe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So same thing as like, in my opinion, if you were beside these things, it's completely safe to stand next to a huge structure that's going to act as a lightning rod because you standing on the ground would be under no danger whatsoever.
Right. Yeah. I ain't fucking standing next to that goddamn lightning
It would have
rod.
been an awesome sight to witness, seeing these
taking
things
a
in
chance.
operation. Yeah. But for example, when it comes to Avebury, it would have been completely safe to be in areas like the head end of the Serpent Temple complex, which was actually designed for human beings to be inside of these things during these thunderstorm events.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And I'll talk about Avebury here in just a second and how the function of Avebury.
Where's Avebury?
Avebury is in Wiltshire, England.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm about to show you a mathematical connection that proves that there is a link between the Avebury Serpent Temple complex in Wiltshire, England, and the configuration of the Luxor Temple,
Okay.
which also has a cumulonimbus white horse lightning storm generator system.
The Luxor Temple does.
Correct. Okay, so this
Show me that shit.
Yeah. I have some slides, and I'll talk about the function of Avebury. I want to make sure that we keep moving here.
Yeah.
Because again, I don't want to get too caught up on any because I have all this in the context of the rest of the
45 minutes
presentation.
in.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, so again, buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. This is about to be the most epic presentation you've ever heard on the function of ancient structures around the world. Because again, my work doesn't just focus on the Egyptian pyramids.
Right.
And everything that we're talking about now is going to establish the foundation of the mechanisms of operation that are going to drive the function of the Egyptian pyramids. Okay. It's all connected. Okay. And they all work the same way. The conclusion of this paper here just establishes a connection between the moon and the phases of the moon, earth tides, and lightning strikes.
Okay.
So there's
What's the connection between
more
the
lightning
moon?
strikes during certain phases of the moon.
Okay.
Okay, so again, we were talking about
In certain parts of the world?
all over the world.
All over the world.
Correct.
More lightning.
Yeah.
And what phases specifically of the moon?
So let me say here. So the conclusion that electrical currents in the rock matrix have a direct impact on lightning strike locations. This conclusion is supported by the fact that there are 25% more lightning strikes at high lunar tide when compared to the number of lightning strikes at low lunar tide.
Oh, interesting.
So there's a direct correlation
High
between...
tide, there's more lightning.
Yep.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So again, this goes back to your point about why these structures are built with celestial alignments. Because the builders of these structures around the world understood what the electric universe has been saying. The electric universe hypothesis states that our solar system is an electromagnetically interconnected, integrated network. Right? So conjunctions of sun, earth, moon, all of these celestial conjunctions have a direct effect on electromagnetic forces here on the planet. So this ancient civilization was tracking things like the phases of the moon and the tide with structures like Stonehenge and Avebury, which are specifically tracking these phases of the moon, so they knew exactly when and where these lightning strikes were going to occur.
wow.
Okay, so this is another paper here that basically connects the recirculation of electrical current on the planet. Telluric currents directly affect where lightning strikes. Lightning strikes then stimulate more telluric currents. That's what this paper here is saying. The Ouroboros, an ancient symbol for the recirculation of electrical current.
Yeah.
An esoteric symbol that encodes...
Positive feedback loop.
Again, absolutely. As above, so below. These two power sources are directly connected. And it's a circulation loop of electrical current.
Okay.
Okay, again, standing here on the Giza Plateau, we have the optimization of these natural resources. We have subterranean electrically conductive water, and we have huge deposits of metal or minerals that are directly connected to telluric current flow and lightning strike locations. We also have subterranean natural resources like methane gas and hydrogen sulfide, which were also mentioned in the paper, that these subterranean gas reserves also have a direct effect on telluric current locations and lightning strikes. So we'll get to this in just a minute. The natural gas and petroleum refining facility that's located at the entrance to the Red and Bent Pyramid complex in Dashur. They have a modern oil and gas facility that's right at the entrance.
No shit.
Yeah. It's a joint venture between Calda Petroleum and Apache Oil, where they are processing natural gas and crude oil. It just so happens that one of the applications for aqueous ammonia is in processing crude oil. One of the many applications for ammonia is crude oil processing. And they have a crude oil processing plant located directly at the entrance to an ancient aqueous ammonia manufacturing facility.
Is that just a coincidence?
I don't think it's a coincidence.
It's holiday season, which means it's time to find creative new ways to hide your thinning and receding hairline from your extended family. We already know that red light therapy helps heal and restore the body, and there's a lot of hairlines out there that need healing. So iRestore said, let's combine this. The iRestore Elite is clinically proven to help regrow hair using 300 lasers and 200 LEDs that send light therapy directly to your scalp. In a double-blind, clinically controlled study, nearly every participant saw an increase in hair growth with this technology. The iRestore Elite uses VIXO lasers that feature wider beams of red light wavelengths that reactivates dormant follicles to restore your natural hair. And the LEDs provide broader uniform coverage to fill in the gaps. And it all comes with a beautiful money-back guarantee. It's comfortable, it's lightweight, and it looks badass when it's sitting on my head, and I don't feel embarrassed wearing it around people. In fact, most people that see me wearing it are pestering me because they want to use it to fix their hair. I've talked about red light many times before, and this technology is super reassuring. For maximum effect, bundle with the Revive Plus Max Growth Kit and Biotin Gummies, which works great with the red light wavelengths. Holidays mean get-togethers, photos, and wanting to look and feel your best. The iRestore is here to help with big seasonal savings happening all month long. And by using the code DannyJones at iRestore.com, you can unlock an exclusive discount on the iRestore Elite. That's code DannyJones at iRestore.com. It's spelled the letter I, RESTORE.com. Please support the show and tell them we sent you. Do you think they're using the fucking pyramid?
Not using the pyramid, but I think that's there for a reason. I think there's always people in the know.
Is there something about that location that makes it better for making ammonia?
Not necessarily that they're manufacturing ammonia there today, but that facility, I've had people in the petroleum industry contact me, engineers, plant operators, and things like that, that have said, because I didn't know about this originally. My original hypothesis for the ammonia was just for fertilizers, and you can also use it for leach mining of copper. So it's always connected to fertilizer and metallurgy.
Yeah.
Right? Two big things that we would also do if we went to an extraterrestrial planet. We would want to have fertilizer to fertilize crops, and we would want to have metallurgy so we can extract metals for building applications.
Right. Yeah, we would need a manufacturer.
A type 1 civilization.
Yeah, we would definitely, that would make a lot of sense. We would need fucking factories there.
Yeah, correct. And that's what you do. You don't bring a factory with you.
No.
You build it in sight.
Yeah.
So this is a connection between like the Anunnaki myths and the construction of the Egyptian pyramids, that they came here and they built these structures in situ to manufacture chemicals and mine metals. Type 1 civilization, very, very advanced. We're not even close. We got 300 years before we're Type 1 civilization. And everything that I'm talking about here is evidence of a proto-Type 1 civilization that may be more advanced than we are.
The Anunnaki came here from Mars. They built the pyramids and they fucked a bunch of apes and created us.
Yeah, they came here for a good time, not for a long time. And then they bounced because they had all the material.
And we're the spin-off of them and the monkeys.
So again, let's entertain this conversation for a second, right? So let's say methane from the Step Pyramid and the ammonia from the Red Pyramid were being used for rocket fuel. And then they could use the...
Yeah, but what, you think
I don't think that, but that is an application to use those chemicals for, we do it today, for rocket fuels.
Right.
So let's say they built these things, they made all the rocket fuel that they needed, and they extracted all the metals to rebuild the ships, and then they bounced.
Yeah, right. But I'm saying,
I don't believe that.
My point was like, if they were that advanced of a civilization, to be able to pull off all this shit, moving stones, what are the chances they would use combustion to fucking get off the planet?
I agree.
You know what I mean?
And that's just a speculation that I like to entertain that from time to time. I don't think that these things were built by extraterrestrials. I think that they were built by humans. Everything about the function of these systems is indicative of Earth-based human technology. I've been inside all the Egyptian pyramids. I've been to more ancient structures, with the exception of Hugh Newman. Shout out Hugh Newman. He's an OG.
He's been on the show.
Yeah, Hugh Newman is great. Shout out Hugh.
He's the dude with the British accent, right?
Correct. Yeah, with the gold tooth.
Yeah.
Hugh's the best.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Hugh has been a big advocate of my work and a supporter.
Yeah.
And he's an OG in the ancient structure around the planet investigation. He's one of the only people that I know that has been to more ancient structures than I have across the world.
Really?
But I've been to a lot of these things, right? I've been inside more Egyptian pyramids than most people. I've been to hundreds of different ancient sites in Japan. I've been to all of the structures around UK, England, Ireland. It's human technology. And I think that it was built at the end of the last ice age so that we could rebuild civilization.
So
I saw you just have a short circuit there.
I did.
Just blow your mind?
I did. No. I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you that it was probably built. I don't know. I think it might have either been built before the ice age ended, before the younger Dryas impacts, if they happen, if that's what it was, if they were common impacts. I think it was possibly there before it, or maybe right after. I think you're right. Göbekli Tepe and things like that are probably older than the pyramid.
Yes.
But my biggest thing is how, like, the thing that like the pyramids are one thing. The pyramids are insane in themselves.
Yes.
But when you have all of those stones all around the pyramid that look like they're cut with circular saws, and the scoop marks out of the obelisks, and those perfectly square granite boxes inside of rooms that are too small to even fit through the doorway.
Yes.
That's when you start to, like, okay, like you're losing me. My brain can't follow this. Like, I don't understand how do you square that with manufacturing chemicals to produce fertilizers and make metals? Like, there's something else. There's like a piece to this puzzle that seems like it's missing.
So think about it this way. So it's been, since the 1500s, it's been 525 years since we came from the 1500s to 2025.
Right.
Modern technology. Think about the leap that we've made in 500 years.
Oh, yeah. It's insane.
Okay. So now,
not even that far. Like, we went from the Civil War shooting muskets and pistols to
even
dropping
a couple hundred
thermonuclear
years.
bombs in 100 years.
Couple hundred years.
Yeah.
So imagine anatomically modern humans, as smart and as capable as you and I are. And there's a big, again, sort of this rhetoric that Neolithic hunter-gatherer civilization was not sophisticated. I think it's the exact opposite. So our Neolithic ancestors would laugh at how primitive and weak we are. Right? They understood nature. They understood how to identify plants. They understood how to survive. They understood how to track the phases of the moon and the phases of the stars and all of this ancient knowledge, right? They were the sophisticated ones.
Yeah.
And just because you wear animal clothes and you're a hunter-gatherer does not make you any less sophisticated. Some would argue that domesticated agriculture is actually contradictory to the way that human beings are supposed to live.
Right. No, it's killing us.
Domesticated agriculture takes more time and investment than hunter-gatherer activities, right? So they were living the dream, and they were just implementing their knowledge that had been developed over 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 years. So, for example, the Japanese Jomon civilization that was also building stone circles and passage chamber reactors all over Japan, the exact same stuff that they were building during the Neolithic period in Europe. The earliest Jomon artifacts go back to 30,000 BCE. So during the Ice Age.
30,000.
30,000, right? They then lasted until around 300 BC. So this is a civilization that was in Japan during the last Ice Age, survived the cataclysm, and then existed for another almost 10,000 years before around 300 BC. And the conventional date for the stone circles that were being built by the Jomon coincides with the conventional dating of stone circles in Europe, approximately 3500 BC, before the Egyptian pyramids.
Right.
So I don't agree with that. I think that they were building these stone circles much closer to the end of the last Ice Age.
Okay.
Because they were utilizing their knowledge of earth forces that they have been studying for years and learning from these natural processes. And I'll show you exactly the evolution of the technology from the mindset of a Neolithic person and how I think this technology originally developed. So that's been a big question, right? In the pursuit of the answers for the function of ancient structures, where did the knowledge come from?
Yeah.
And how did they get from point A to pyramids? And in the context of this presentation, I want to establish how you can get from point A, from studying nature to implementing that in Egyptian pyramids.
Okay.
So let's talk about Avebury for a second.
Yep.
The Serpent Temple Complex, which is a prime example of the utilization of all of these earth natural resources. So this is a picture of the entire temple complex, which has three main components. You have the central voltage receiver, the big circle, the concentric circle system.
Yep.
You have the head end and the tail end.
Right.
And Avebury
I remember this from last
is
time.
literally designed to facilitate the uptake of diurnal telluric currents. So telluric currents are diurnal, which means they flow from east to west during the day, and they flow from north to south at night. So they flow from east to west during the day following the sun, and then they follow the geomagnetic poles at the night. So you'll see Avebury has an opening on the east side and on the north side that's specifically designed for the uptake of telluric currents, and the tilt of it is directly calibrated to Earth's axial tilt. So that tilt is not arbitrary. It's specifically designed to receive telluric currents into the structure itself. And this was actually tested by John Burke, who wrote a fascinating book. Again, shout out Hugh Newman for bringing this to my attention, who actually tested these electric fields inside of these structures. So this isn't speculation that these structures can accumulate electric fields. It's been tested and documented in John Burke's work. And he thinks that these electric fields and magnetic forces inside of these things are for seed modification. So he also has a hypothesis that connects these structures to agricultural applications. And he thought in his book that lightning was a byproduct and an unintentional consequence of this electric field accumulation. And I only found out about this book after I met Hugh Newman in like 2023. And I started reading the book on our way to Japan, and he started talking about all the same stuff that I was talking about, albeit with a different end product.
Right.
And he specifically mentioned that lightning would absolutely be striking these things, but it was an unintended consequence. I think that it was the direct intention was to attract lightning strikes.
Right.
So what happens, right? We have the telluric currents from below that are concentrated by the stone circle, which develops a positive charge on the surface of the earth that is a target for negatively charged cloud-to-ground lightning. Stone circles are surface charge accumulators that uptake telluric currents from the earth and develop a charge on the surface of the earth that is a direct target for negatively charged cloud-to-ground lightning. So why were they doing that? And is there any proof that this was happening? So this is the Calanese stone circle. And this system operated the exact same way, where it was developing a positive charge within the stone circle that attracted negatively charged cloud-to-ground lightning. Turns out that there was an investigation of the Calanese stone circle in this paper, Geophysical Investigation of the Neolithic Calanese Landscape, from the University of St. Andrews. So they went out to this stone circle and they did magnetic testing of the site, and they found this star-shaped signature in the center of the stone circle that I will quote, "These features are interpreted as indicative of past lightning strikes." So here is academic proof that there were lightning strikes at ancient stone circles.
Right.
So again, we've established a scientific connection between telluric current accumulation, subterranean natural resources, lightning strike locations, and now we have proof of this hypothesis that was developed by the University of St. Andrews in their magnetic study of the Calanese stone circle.
And so why exactly did they want lightning again?
So
for these, like for Stonehenge and for this place, like
correct.
Why do they want lightning hitting those stone circle monuments?
So it is for the production of atmospheric nitrate fertilizers. So when lightning strikes, it creates a chemical reaction in the atmosphere that creates water-soluble nitrate fertilizers. So they built these stone circles all around Europe. They are everywhere, all over Japan, to attract lightning, rain, and agricultural fertilizers that are created during lightning strikes two specific agricultural areas.
Right.
It's all about feeding the people. So again, we're talking about a civilization that just survived a massive cataclysm. So what's the number one most important thing? Food. We got to make sure that the generations survive.
Right.
So we're going to start building systems that implement our knowledge of Earth's natural resources to bring lightning, rain, and fertilizer to the areas where we're doing our hunting, gathering, and proto-agricultural activities.
So what is your take on Göbekli Tepe?
Göbekli Tepe may have had a similar operation. That's not a structure that I've looked at in depth.
Okay.
So I haven't developed a thorough hypothesis on Göbekli Tepe. Shout out Matt Sibson from Ancient Architects. I'll mention him later in this presentation as well. He's done some great work on the symbolism of Göbekli Tepe that is also related to tracking agricultural activities and hunter-gatherer activities.
Yeah.
It's basically like a repository for survival knowledge.
Yeah, the big stones and the carvings into those pillars at Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah.
Like the dudes with the hands and stuff.
Yeah.
It's very similar to the ones on Easter Island.
Yes. Yeah. So early shout out to Andy Hall, one of the prolific researchers from the electric universe theory and the Thunderbolts project, where he actually developed a hypothesis on the handbags and those weird handbag symbols that we see at Göbekli Tepe and also in these Sumerian glyphs with the bird people carrying the handbags.
Right.
He thinks that those handbags represent cumulonimbus thunderstorm clouds.
Oh, interesting.
So the civilization is depicting thunderstorms, lightning storms.
The bags contained clouds.
He thinks they symbolically represent thunderstorm clouds.
Based on what?
He goes through a very in-depth explanation of how the bag itself represents the airflow convection. You got to have Andy Hall on the show. Shout out Andy. But that's his hypothesis on the symbol of the bag.
Okay.
So those depictions are showing that the civilization had the ability to carry thunderstorms, controlling the weather. This is another indication that this is a type 1 civilization. Manipulation of weather is another hallmark of a type 1 civilization that is super advanced with the ability to control where thunderstorms occur, which is my hypothesis for the White Horse Hills all over Wiltshire, England, which are directly connected to these stone circle systems. So you have to have a way to generate thunderstorms that are directly connected to your stone circle voltage attractor.
Right.
Okay.
All right. So let's make the link between the stone circles and the pyramids.
Yes. So the pyramids operate in the exact same way. Specifically, we'll talk about the Great Pyramid, where the Great Pyramid is uptaking telluric currents, developing charge on the top of the pyramid. That charge on the top of the pyramid serves as a target for negatively charged cloud-to-ground lightning strike.
Okay.
And the same paper that I'll present here in a minute that shows that the pyramids can accumulate electric fields also shows that when you induce charge from below, the Great Pyramid develops a huge charge on the apex that excludes the capstone. Great Pyramid never had a capstone.
What?
Well, I'll show you exactly.
I think you told me this last time.
I'll show you exactly why that's the case. But the Great Pyramid is specifically designed to accumulate electric fields in specific areas around the structure.
Okay.
This paper also just mentions here that persistent features such as trees, stones, conductive minerals, again, mentioning stone and conductive minerals, will tend to get struck multiply over time.
Right.
So these are ideal targets for lightning strikes.
Hold that thought. I got to take a pee real quick.
Okay.
We're back.
Okay. So again, going back to the materials that they use for construction, this is going to apply directly to my hypothesis on Teotihuacan.
Okay.
When you see mica, think high voltage applications. Mica is a high voltage insulator. And mica was utilized in the construction of Stonehenge in the altar stone, which they recently found was brought from like Scotland into England.
Oh, wow.
They brought it from a very, very long distance, specifically for its high mica content. And Stonehenge also tracks the phases of the moon. As we just mentioned, that there's a direct connection between the phases of the moon and the tides. So Avebury is also a tidal calculator that tracks the phases of the moon, the tides, for a timing mechanism to know exactly when and where lightning was going to strike. Here's a paper called The Moon Effect on Lightning. Basically corroborates everything I just said.
That's fascinating.
Obelisks, standing stones and menhir. This is us in Japan looking at a huge red granite obelisk stone. It's a standing stone or a menhir. These were the lightning rods that just gave the shortest path to ground and the lightning a direct target to strike at the center of these systems. So all of the standing stone and menhir, this is another one in Japan at the Ogami Gaishi stone circle, where there's andesite stones that have a huge magnetic field. The magnetic field is a remnant magnetic field from lightning strikes on these andesite stones. Wow. Here's some standing stones.
This is Japan?
From Europe. This one here is in Japan. This is at the Ogami Gaishi stone circle. And this one is pretty close to where we live in Japan, another one of these obelisks. And you see here at the top of this thing, there's a braided rope and a symbol that I'll show you here in just a second that is a symbol that adorns tons of Japanese temples that establishes the connection between thunderstorms, lightning, and agriculture.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's all over Japan. So again, obelisks, standing stone, menhir are all lightning rods, right? Because of the higher electrical potential at the top of the stone itself creates an ideal target for cloud to ground lightning strikes. Basically just giving it a target to strike.
Got it.
Washington Monument. Getting struck by lightning. This is exactly what they were for. Same thing here. So getting into the Japan research. This is at the Oshido-ishi Hill in Kumamoto,
and
Japan.
You went to Japan recently to look at all this stuff.
Yeah, we live part-time in Japan. Yeah, so we have our place
This
in
is
Egypt.
very recent for you though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, very recent. Yeah. So we went in September 2024 for a month-long research expedition, fell in love with Japan, visited over 100 ancient sites all over Japan.
Wow.
Fell
Are there
in
a lot
love
of
with
pyramids there?
There is only one that I know of that is an archaeologically documented artificial pyramid, but there's tons that people speculate, but they've never been excavated. And I'll talk about that here in just a minute about the Coromanta Pyramid and the excavations at the Coromanta Pyramid that connect to ball lightning and this geothermal subterranean source of possibly either volcanic energy or sulfide-bearing hot spring gas coming from below the structure. Super interesting. Again, we're talking about type 1 civilization stuff, right? Where they're utilizing all of the forces of the earth integrated into the function of these structures. So here at Oshido-ishi Hill, they have this configuration of andesite stones that you can see here. The top of this one is pretty melted because of lightning strikes on this stone. And the researchers at Kumamoto University have come to the conclusion that these andesite stones at the top of this hill are magnetized because of lightning strikes. That's the conclusion of it here. Stones are magnetized by lightning. So this is an example of a possibly natural formation that could have provided the impetus and the knowledge for the development of this stone circle technology. So let's say you're a Neolithic person and you're watching these thunderstorms. And lightning is always striking near this kind of stone circle type formation at the top of a hill. And you notice that all of the land surrounding these lightning strikes is much more fertile. So they begin to develop a connection between lightning strikes, rain, and the fertilization of the agricultural material in that area. So it's not a far leap of the imagination that they would say, hey, what if we move this stone circle from point A to point B? And instead of having a natural outcrop that is a natural target for lightning strikes, we take that configuration and we move it over here because we want lightning over here too. We want it in all the areas that we're hunting and gathering.
Because the lightning brings rain, which
brings rain
crops,
and brings agricultural fertilizers. So that is why we find these things all over the world. Because they were bringing lightning, rain, and agricultural fertilizers to areas all over the world for fertilization of crops. Farmers love lightning. And look at the location, the distribution of stone circles.
Whoa, that's a lot.
They're all over the place. This is a whole bunch of different
How many stone circles
the
are
top
there?
left, there's got to be, I don't know the exact number, but on the top left, you can see the location of stone circles all over the UK. They are all over the place. And they're all over Japan too. They're all over
Hundreds.
Europe. Hundreds, probably closer to thousands.
Wow.
Yeah, they built them all over.
And henges, fewer henges.
Yeah. So this shows stone circles, henges, long barrows, and chambered tombs, and hill forts and promontory forts.
Wow.
Yeah, these hill forts are most likely cumulonimbus thunderstorm generators. But we find these things all over Japan. This is the Arahabaki, which is a Japanese Jomon figurine. Looks pretty weird, right? But
it looks like an alien.
Yeah, this is an example of some of the figurines that were being made by the Japanese Jomon civilization that built these stone circles.
He kind of looks like the little alien from Men in Black that was inside the guy's face.
Yeah, for sure. And they built these things all over Japan. So you see this twisted rope?
Yeah.
Right? That is something called a shimenawa. And a shimenawa has 3 different components. You have the twisted rope, you have these white pieces of paper, and you have these sheaves. So the twisted rope represents thunderstorm clouds. The shide, the white paper, represents lightning. And the sheaves of material represent rice and agricultural crops. Oh, wow. So in Japan, all over these ancient temples and all over these megaliths that were being struck by lightning, all the megaliths that are struck by lightning are wrapped in these shimenawa and shide.
No way.
Literally telling you symbolically that there's a connection between thunderstorms, lightning, agricultural fertilizer, and crops.
Right.
All over Japan. Shimenawa and shide. And across the world, we have mythological gods that are also connected to rain, water, fertility, and lightning.
Yep.
So this is Tlaloc, a god that is literally the Aztec god of rain, water, fertility, and lightning. There's always a connection in ancient mythology. Baal is another one that's connected to lightning and agriculture. This is Japan in Susanoo, another Japanese mythological god that's directly connected to lightning, thunderstorms, rain, and agriculture. Okay, so Pyramid Coromanta, the Japanese pyramid. Absolutely fascinating.
How big?
It's comparable to the size of... So it's bigger than the final pyramid on the Giza Plateau. So bigger than Menkaure.
The small one.
The small one.
Okay.
Yeah.
But not as big as Khafre.
I would say if you cut Khafre in the central one, cut it in half, that's about the size of Coromanta Pyramid. And I'll show you a picture of it here in just a second. So this pyramid mountain is directly connected to tons of UFO sightings.
Really?
Yeah. It's a huge UFO site. And at the top of this thing, so we went here. And at the top of this pyramid mountain, it's a flat platform. And there's a shrine built at the top of this flat platform now. And there's all sorts of like UFO, alien stickers and people stuff all over the top.
Well, when they had that big nuclear meltdown in Japan too, there was a bunch of UFO sightings.
Right. Yeah. Which I think is directly related to electrical phenomenon, like ball lightning, like plasma phenomenon. So this is a super mysterious mountain that is directly connected with all sorts of UFO sightings. Here's a painting of the Coromanta Pyramid that shows one of these circular spheres that have been seen. They see these over and over and over again at Pyramid Coromanta. Wow. Yeah, this is an ancient depiction of it. In my opinion, these things are ball lightning, which is a electrical, possibly plasma phenomenon that's directly associated with thunderstorms and lightning. And they even have mythology about ball lightning in Japan where they call it a raiju. So this little creature, right, this Japanese mythological creature that can shapeshift, and they also find associations with weird smells. So for example,
sulfur.
Sulfur.
Of course.
Yeah, which is also closely associated with UFO phenomenon.
And the devil.
Like hissing, glowing, sulfur smell, demons, all of this stuff is closely associated with ball lightning. And again, this mythological creature known as the Raiju in Japan, which is symbolically representing of ball lightning. The Shinto god is Raijin, the Shinto god of lightning. So this is going to talk about the excavation of the Coromanta Pyramid. So they actually excavated this thing. And they're excavating the top of this thing, and it's disrupting radio waves. They did ground penetrating radar, scanned the structure, and they found subterranean objects that were interfering with their electrical equipment inside of this pyramid. So here's the picture of them GPR scanning this thing. And during the excavation, they cracked into the granite chamber. So they discovered a granite chamber inside of the pyramid that this guy directly connects to being similar to the Great Pyramid with the granite chambers on the inside. They cracked accidentally into the foundation of this chamber. They leave for lunch, and all of a sudden they turn back around and there's flames shooting out of the top of the mountain. This is documented in his archaeological story. So this was during the 1970s, I believe. Oh my! I forget the time period of this, but I believe it was during the 1970s. So they walk away and there's these flames, colored flames shooting out of the top of the mountain, which would be directly connected to a subterranean gas source, either methane or sulfur oxides of some sort, possibly hydrogen sulfide, located inside of the chamber or directly below the Coromanta Pyramid, which, as we'll see here in just a second, is directly connected to the function of the Great Pyramid that is built on top of a subterranean cave system that provides the source of hydrogen sulfide gas. So here is a picture of the little temple that they discovered at the top. And he goes in here to explain the correlation between these internal granite stone chambers and the configuration of the Great Pyramid. So here's some pictures of what they found during the GPR scanning. It is 100% a man-made pyramid, and it has internal granite reaction chambers. And at the top of this pyramid, there's a stone circle and obelisk structure that would have functioned as your positive charge accumulator.
Sitting on top?
On top of the pyramid. So it has a flat top.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so the top of the pyramid is configured with a positive charge accumulator and a standing stone obelisk that would have operated as your lightning rod. It has internal red granite reaction chambers, very similar to what we have with the Great Pyramid. And it also has a subterranean gas source, because the researcher that wrote this book, one of the archaeological members, says that there has to be a source of gas somewhere below the structure to cause these flames shooting out of the top of the pyramid during the excavation. He also connects the structure into two other adjacent stone circles. So here's one of the stone circles at Oyu, and you can see here in the background the Coromanta Pyramid. So these two stone circles are directly connected via stone avenues into Coromanta Pyramid. So you have the stone circles, there's a stone avenue that connects these two stone circles, and there's another stone avenue that leads directly to the pyramid.
Wait, go back to the last one?
Yeah.
Where's the pyramid there?
The pyramid is off in the north direction.
Got it.
It's too far away for me to fit on this slide, but it's just showing that there is a stone avenue that goes off in this direction.
So that avenue on the top connects to the pyramid.
Correct. Yeah. And this was corroborated by the museum archaeologists at the Oyu Stone Circle
sites. And is it a
sites.
perfect triangle?
I don't know about that.
Okay.
So he even says here in this report and book regarding the excavation that he thinks there's a connection between these stone circles, which I'll explain exactly what that is here in just a second. And the whole temple site, right? The pyramid, the associated stone circles, and all the structures in the ritual network centered on Mount Coromanta is a network linked to the worship of a snake god. So when it comes to mythology, there is communication encoded in these snake figures, whether it's Kukulkan or Quetzalcoatl,
right,
the Japanese dragon,
feathered serpent,
or the serpent deities. All of these are representative lightning. And for example, the Kukulkan and its descent onto the pyramid of Chichen Itza represents lightning, because there is direct connection between the descent of Kukulkan and the beginning of the Mayan agricultural season. Right. So the spring equinox is the beginning of their agricultural season. So when the serpent descends onto the pyramid of Chichen Itza, it represents the lightning striking, bringing agricultural fertilizer for their agricultural season.
Yeah, and we had, I think it was Dr. Barnhart and Luke Caverns in here. And Dr. Barnhart is
Luke is a good friend.
Luke's great.
Yeah,
I love Luke.
Yeah.
And he brought in this other gentleman, Dr. Barnhart, who has been studying ancient Mesoamerica his whole entire life. And he's been to all these sites or whatever. And they were explaining to me that they would do like crazy things, like they were sacrificing people and doing all kinds of things, all in the name of bringing rain.
There you go. Yeah.
Because they would get like long dry seasons or whatever, and they would try to bring like, and they would do like crazy rituals. They were like messing with people's, like trying to elongate people's heads, like trying to mess with like the morphology of people.
Yeah.
All in the name of like appeasing the rain gods.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was critical to this civilization.
Yeah.
Rain and agriculture were the most important parts of this civilization's existence. Mm-hmm. So if you can create systems that have the ability to allocate these natural forces to specific areas, it would have been as if you were able to control the place where the gods descended from heaven.
Right.
And this is a part of a lot of the mythology of the Japanese stone circles, is that they're called the places where God descended from heaven. or the place where the dragon touched the ground. Lightning striking these specific areas.
Right.
There's a direct connection between all of this stuff.
Sure.
And I'm glad to see that even in the conventional academic sense, there's corroboration of this idea.
Yeah.
That they were super, super focused on rain and agriculture.
Yes.
And there's a direct connection between Kukulkan descending on the pyramid of Chichen Itza, representing this feathered serpent god, and the feathered serpent god brings rain, lightning, and nourishes the ground for agriculture because of these atmospheric nitrate fertilizers.
It's just like, I wonder how closely connected those civilizations were in Egypt and Mesoamerica.
Yeah. So
and Japan.
Yeah. So this is an interesting discussion regarding, is it either single point of origin? So let's say there is Atlantis, single point of origin, where during the destruction of Atlantis, the survivors went everywhere and they had the same knowledge, single point of origin. Second hypothesis is intercontinental travel during that time period, where all of these independent civilizations were traveling across the oceans and sharing knowledge.
Right.
So it's one of those two things, for them to have the same knowledge and building these same type of structures in Neolithic UK and also in Japan, right? These people either have to come from the same point of origin or there was intercontinental travel, which I tend to lead toward the intercontinental travel, where these independent civilizations, they were traveling like the cocaine mummies, right? There's a connection between South America and Egypt with these mummies that have been found with coca leaves.
Right.
So there had to be intercontinental travel and trade between these civilizations for them to be sharing these type of agricultural goods.
Who was the cocaine mummy dude? We were just talking to a cocaine mummy dude, weren't we, Steve? Remember the German guy who went to prison?
I was going to say ivermectin, but
somebody connected us to a guy who found cocaine in mummies.
Yeah, the German speed guy.
Yeah,
that was looking.
And he went to prison.
Yeah, I forget what the name of the.
We were contacting
German
him. We had him
speed
scheduled at one point. The Coralie dude connected him with us.
Oh, the from overseas.
Yeah,
that was that Martin?
I don't remember.
Nonetheless, right? Intercontinental travel,
yeah,
sharing of knowledge and information, which is why we have these aesthetic differences between, for example, the Mesoamerican pyramids, which have a very Mesoamerican style, and the Egyptian pyramids and the pyramids in Japan.
Sure,
they all have a different aesthetic.
Yeah, the Mesoamerican ones are nuts.
They look
like
very
pillowy.
Yeah, they look very different because it was built by the local inhabitants of those particular areas, but they were sharing the knowledge. So they were traveling, they were sharing construction techniques, they were sharing this technology and how it could benefit everyone on the planet. So they all started building the same things with the same knowledge, but they built them with the different aesthetic style of that particular local inhabitant civilization, which is what I tend to lead to.
But there were also things that like didn't go that weren't translated across the cultures. Like there's weird little things, right? Like, like in Mesoamerica, they have those little notches that stick out. Like we don't know what those were for,
right? And
then like it looks like the stones were like placed on top of each other and melted together perfectly.
Sure. Yeah.
So many strange things, man.
Yeah. So when it comes to construction techniques, that's not necessarily my area of research. I have some ideas about that.
Right.
I tend to focus really only on the function of the structures themselves, which again, there's only so much time in any given day.
Right.
And I've proposed more hypotheses for various structures around the world than I think anybody else has ever attempted to tackle. So that's really where other people need to step up and develop some new hypotheses regarding the construction methods.
Right.
So, because we don't have any revolutionary hypotheses about these construction methods other than people that are talking about geopolymer, which I don't necessarily agree with the geopolymer idea either.
Right.
Because
that one seems tough.
There's abundant evidence, specifically in Egypt, of quarrying natural stones.
Yes.
We know exactly the quarry sites.
Yep.
We see the evidence of quarrying. There's really no substantial physical evidence in Egypt of geopolymer. So I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it's an interesting hypothesis, but I don't necessarily agree with it. Right. So this is a picture to give you a size of the Coromanta pyramid.
Damn.
It's huge. And they have, again, GPR scanned this thing, and it is 100% a man-made pyramid that may be built on a
And that is accepted by academics?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, this book that I showed is an actual archaeological team that did the excavations at the site.
Okay.
At its core, it may be a natural geothermal formation, right? Because there's a source of gas coming from somewhere below the structure.
Right.
That when they cracked into the foundation of this internal
lit
chamber,
up.
the gas was seeping out, and all of a sudden there's flame shooting out of the top of the pyramid. It's a wild, wild archaeological story. It's called the Pyramid of the Gods. It's written in Japanese, so you have to translate the whole thing. But shout out to our buddy Teru that got that book translated for me. All right. So did we talk about the Sphinx step-down transformers, how they reduce voltage?
No.
Okay, so this is kind of important.
Sphinx
step-down voltage transformers.
Okay.
And the stone avenues that connect all of these systems.
Let's do it.
Okay. So at Avebury, for example, you have these avenues of stone that go from the central concentric circle system. You can see this avenue of stone going out to the west and going out to the south.
Yeah.
That connect into the tail end and the head end of the system. We have the exact same thing at the Karnak Temple, where the Karnak Temple is connected into the Luxor Temple via an avenue of Sphinxes. And I'll show you here in just a moment that there is a mathematical connection between Avebury and the Luxor Karnak Temple system in Egypt.
Okay.
So the function of Luxor Karnak Temple is very similar to the function of Avebury, where Karnak is your central voltage receiver and Luxor is the head end of the temple complex that is intended for the interface of human beings inside the structures. Like I was saying, it was completely safe to be inside of these things when lightning was striking because there are areas of the temples that are intended for people to be inside of them for a myriad of physical applications. Okay, so let's look at the Avebury stones, the avenue of stones. So these stones have a bunch of physical features that are indicative of high voltage electrical transmission through the stone. So this is an analysis of the Avebury stone avenue, and these stones have peeling, vitrified silica glaze, cracks, creases, lamination, pitting, pinholes, hollows, pellets. All of these features are indicative of high voltage electrical transmission through this stone, specifically the vitrified silica, like melting of silica in these stones.
Okay.
They also have a very high content of iron. So this is an analysis of the iron content in these stones. Iron is essential for the transmission of voltage via Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. Iron is critical.
Okay.
Just so happens that in the Sphinx avenues, these things also have mica, which we just talked about, mica being utilized in Stonehenge as a high voltage insulator. These Sphinx statues in the Sphinx avenues are also made of micaceous minerals. They have hard iron nodules and they have pyrite crystals. So the materials from which each structure is made is indicative of the function of each type of construction material. For example, red, white, and black. White is electric fields. Black is heat storage. Red is ultrasound. Anytime you see mica or iron, think high voltage electromagnetic induction. And pyrite is actually a semiconductor, where it's an insulator at low voltage and a conductor at high voltage. So it's ideal for the electromagnetic induction distribution of high voltage current from the primary receiver into the head end of the Avebury Serpent Temple complex and into Luxor. So basically you're reducing the voltage.
Got it.
Lightning is a ton of voltage, like millions of volts. Instantaneous.
Right.
And when lightning hits the ground, it doesn't go straight down. It goes out across the surface of the earth. So some of that voltage is going to be sent down these avenues of stone. As the voltage passes through each stone, the iron is utilized to induce electromagnetic fields, electromagnetic induction that allows that current to be passed down through each stone. strategically reducing the voltage as it flows down these stone avenues. This also may involve the dielectric breakdown of air, which is exactly what lightning is. It's an electrostatic phenomenon that happens because of dielectric breakdown of air. It's a very complicated way to describe what lightning is. Mm-hmm. So let me animate it here. So the voltage is introduced into the first stone. It induces electromagnetic flux that then induces voltage in the next one, and it's passed down the line.
So this is at Luxor?
This is at Luxor, correct.
Isn't it crazy that some of those big statues at Luxor, those Sphinxes, or what are those faces, those giant faces that they have there, are like so perfectly symmetrical?
Yes.
Do you think there was a function to that symmetry?
So the symmetry of the faces in the statues? Mm-hmm. Not necessarily. I think that was just the aesthetic style of the dynastic Egyptian iconography. Okay. It's all very symmetrical.
Because what are those statues made of?
Typically red granite.
Just red granite.
Yeah. The statues are mostly red granite.
And the explanation for how they carved those perfectly symmetrical faces was with what kind of tools?
So they don't have a good explanation for exactly how those things were carved.
Right.
You would have had progressively finer tools and then also polishing compounds. Mm-hmm. So you would have had different tools for the excavation, the different tools for the raw shaping. Same thing we do with modern masonry and sculpture today is that the closer you get to the end product, the smaller and finer the tools are.
Yeah.
So by the time you're actually shaping the face and carving it into its final form, you're using very, very small, very accurate tools to be able to carve that. Mm-hmm. And there are structures that modern masons use to create symmetry. I forget the name of the piece, but it has these pins in it, and the pins have measurements. So as you're shaping each side of the stone, you can track the distance of the pins to make sure that each side is symmetrical.
Okay.
It's a technique that we still use today that uses very rudimentary apparatus where all the pins are like in a grid. And each one of the pins, as you work the stone, you move the pin in to track the symmetry of the carving.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they still use that today.
Okay.
Yeah, but in my opinion, the more difficult thing is carving realistic stuff. It's way harder to carve something realistically than it is to make symmetrically. Mm-hmm. Like the Greek and Roman stuff, to make it look like an actual human face is way harder. And they were able to do it.
Those stones were softer though, right? Like the
no,
statue
they have
of David.
stuff like marble. And they were carving out of porphyry and granite, same thing. But they say...
Isn't marble soft?
I don't know about... I don't think marble's soft.
What is the statue of David made out of? Marble?
I have no idea. Not my area of expertise, but they say that the reason the Greeks and Romans were able to do that is because they had iron.
Okay.
And that's the big conjecture about the carving of stuff in Egypt, is that they didn't have iron. Yeah, so a 305, softer than granite, but harder than other stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So, again, they say that because the Greeks and Romans had iron, they were able to carve granite more easily.
Okay.
But the Egyptians, so they say, didn't have iron. But it's also a myth that it was pure copper. It was never 100% pure copper. No legitimate academic would ever say that they were using 100% pure copper.
Okay, interesting.
It's arsenical copper, 90% copper, 10% arsenic. That completely changes the property of the copper.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the particulate abrasives. Again, the abrasives are the magic of ancient Egyptian stonework. Corundum abrasives.
Corundum
abrasives, correct. Yeah.
And that's the corundum is what you were explaining to me, what we were talking about on our Patreon that we did, was the corundum is similar to ruby.
Yes, it's the same mineral as ruby, which is the second hardest mineral on the planet, second only to diamond.
And then, so the corundum abrasive would have been used for things like those perfectly straight cuts, like that look like they were done with circular saws on some of those stones.
Yeah. So the abrasive is poured into the saw cut, and the blade moves that abrasive around, and the abrasive is actually what does the cutting. So as the blade itself moves that slurry in the saw cut, the corundum particulate abrasive that they found chemical analysis that shows that there was particulate abrasive in these saw cuts that is indicative of this slurry compound.
Got it.
The abrasive is what does the cutting.
Got it.
Corundum.
Got it.
And corundum is harder than granite. Corundum is the second hardest mineral on the planet, second only to diamond.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so let's move forward here. So this voltage distribution is also directly connected to the function of the Serappeum, which we'll get to in just a sec. Let's talk about Teotihuacan.
Okay.
The function of Teotihuacan. So you have three different structures at the Teotihuacan complex. You have the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. So anytime you hear Feathered Serpent, Quetzalcoatl, you know, again, there's communication encoded in the structures. That is literally telling you that this is where lightning strikes. Temple of the Feathered Serpent. You have the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon. And the voltage from lightning strikes was being distributed into these other structures. So this is the Pyramid of the Sun, this is the Pyramid of the Moon, and this is the remains of the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, Quetzalcoatl, or Kukulkan. Same deity. One is Mayan, one is Aztec.
Okay.
So they did excavations at the Teotihuacan complex, and they found tunnels below all of these structures. Vast tunnel systems running below the structures, and they found deposits of liquid mercury. So here's one of the tunnels below the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, and they found liquid mercury below the Temple of the Feathered Serpent.
I've heard of this.
Yeah.
Luke was telling me this.
Yes. Yeah. Now, there's a little something weird going on because in all of the articles, there are no pictures of this liquid mercury, which is a little odd. It's reported in tons of articles, but there are no actual pictures or evidence of this liquid mercury. They say they found it, but there's no evidence in terms of pictures.
Okay.
So again, an image here. They also found pyrite spheres. So we just talked about pyrite being utilized within the Sphinx Avenue step-down voltage transformers. We've also found pyrite spheres, mica, and liquid mercury in the Teotihuacan complex. Pyrite, again, is a semiconductor, an insulator at low voltage and conductive at high voltage. This is just an image of some of the tunnels that are found below the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. So this is the Temple of the Feathered Serpent.
And what technology did they use to find those, to map those tunnels?
No, they physically excavated it.
They went down there?
Yeah, they went down in there.
Whoa,
yeah.
Fuck. When?
So I don't know exactly when those excavations were carried out, but it's fairly recent.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the Temple of the Feathered Serpent that has this dragon descending down the side of it. Again, anytime you see a dragon or a feathered serpent, it's telling you that this is where lightning struck. And the configuration of this temple reminds me very much of the solar temple at Abu Ghraib, which is a temple that had a huge obelisk on the top of it. That was the attractor and primary object that was struck by lightning. So again, always connected to agriculture. So look at the configuration of the Teotihuacan Serpent Temple complex. And we also have a source of water with the San Juan River running through the center of the complex. So again, we have a source of subterranean water that's directly connected to telluric currents being directly connected to lightning strike locations.
Right.
We have the exact same thing here. So what were they using the mercury for? Mercury can be used to amalgamate gold. So this is gold being dissolved into liquid mercury. It's called amalgamation, where liquid mercury will amalgamate and dissolve gold, which is a way that you can process gold ore.
And what does the gold turn into when you dissolve it?
It's a mercury amalgam.
Okay.
So that's a specific word that you use to describe metals dissolving into mercury. And then you can distill that amalgam to get purified gold. It's a purification method used for taking gold ore and turning it into pure gold metal. So for processing of metal ores.
Is this used today?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
This is a picture of distillation in a mercury amalgam retort.
Got it.
Which is used to purify gold.
Okay.
So the Temple of the Sun, the Temple of the Moon, and the Quetzalcoatl Serpent Temple Complex. So from an alchemical perspective, the Pyramid of the Sun is an alchemical symbol for gold. The moon is an alchemical symbol for silver. So the Teotihuacan Temple Complex is using liquid mercury for processing gold and silver ore. Okay. Again, there's communication encoded in these structures. Mm-hmm. And even though this is modern nomenclature, the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon, it's the same thing as the King's Chamber air shafts and the well shaft that tell you exactly what those features were doing. The King's Chamber air shafts being air intakes that bring air into the King's Chamber. The well shaft being the source of water utilized in the internal chemical reaction process. That goes down to the subterranean chamber? Correct, yeah. Yeah, so it's all about the processing of gold. We knew that there was a huge civilization in Mesoamerica, like it's the city of El Dorado, that was processing gold.
Right.
So that's my hypothesis for the Teotihuacan Serpent Temple Complex, is that they were using this liquid mercury for processing gold and silver ore.
Wow.
So there's a couple of reasons why I think that's the case, and I'll skip through these slides to kind of speed through this one. Okay, so the pyramids at Teotihuacan are made from very specific materials. So the pyramids themselves are made from loam soils, which are relatively decent electrical conductors. Okay? So the loam soil is relatively electrically conductive. They also found tons of mica embedded in these structures, which is a high voltage insulator. Right. So again, the construction materials are always reflective of the function of the individual structures. The Feathered Serpent Temple is where lightning struck, and that lightning strike was distributed into these pyramid structures to heat the ores. It's because you have to extract the mercury from the cinnabar ore, and they found cinnabar ore all over the site as well. Abundant cinnabar, which is a mercury ore, was found at the Teotihuacan complex.
Okay.
So here is a depiction of the grid system below the Teotihuacan Serpent Temple Complex. They have an avenue that was filled with water that runs below the Avenue of the Dead. And here's the tunnels connecting the Temple of the Plumed Serpent, where they discovered all the mercury, into the Temple of the Sun and the Temple of the Moon. Lightning struck the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, and that voltage was distributed into the rest of the temple complex that was utilized for the mercurial extraction of gold and silver ore. You ever seen this diagram before?
No.
It's from like Ancient Aliens on the History Channel.
Oh my
God. Where they show the Teotihuacan Serpent Temple Complex down here at the bottom.
Yeah.
As an interconnected grid network that looks like a computer chip.
Yeah.
So they always show this, but they never say what the power source of the system is. The power source comes from lightning. That turns on this electrochemical mercurial extraction system. So they were using...
And what did you say the ultimate purpose of the gold was?
Yeah, to pure gold.
For what?
So gold was very, very important to this ancient civilization for some reason, whether it be ceremonial, whether it be for monetary, or whether it be for things like nanoparticle gold or monoatomic gold, which gets into some speculation about what the actual application of the gold is. You ever heard of monoatomic gold?
No.
Or nanoparticle gold?
What that is.
So I don't want to get too far on a tangent, but nanoparticle gold is the smallest particle that can be produced when gold is dissolved into an acid. Okay. It's a great way to purify metals, to purify and extract different metals. That's application number one. But some have proposed that monoatomic gold has all sorts of therapeutic applications, and that this ancient civilization was consuming monoatomic gold. You ever heard of manna from the Bible?
Yeah.
A lot of people say that monoatomic gold is manna.
Oh wow.
It's a completely different rabbit hole. I don't want to get caught up too much on that because it's a very, very long rabbit hole. Yep. But again, they found all of this cinnabar mercury ore at this temple complex. The cinnabar mercury ore goes...
This is underneath that complex?
This is a picture of the tunnel below the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. The mercury ore goes into this tunnel system. lightning would strike and it extracts the liquid mercury ore by heating the ore. So this is how you extract the liquid mercury from the cinnabar ore. That liquid mercury is then utilized within the Temple of the Sun for the extraction of gold ore and the Temple of the Moon for the extraction of silver ore. You can use liquid mercury to amalgamate these ores and extract the respective precious metals. So the Teotihuacan complex is a huge lightning-powered mercurial gold and silver extraction facility.
Jesus Christ. And then the rain that it would bring was just an added bonus.
So there's also a cumulonimbus white horse thunderstorm generator adjacent to the Teotihuacan Serpent Temple complex. And it is exactly 5,300 meters away from the Temple of the Plumed Serpent.
5,300 meters.
5,300 meters. I'm going to show you here in just a second. There's a mathematical connection.
Okay.
Okay, 5,300 meters between the cumulonimbus thunderstorm generator at the pyramids of Teotihuacan, 5,300 meters between the White Horse Hills of Wiltshire, England, and the Avebury Serpent Temple complex, and 5,300 meters between the thunderstorm generator at the Luxor Karnak Temple and the Karnak Temple itself. Then there's a mathematical connection in the distance of the Sphinx step-down voltage transformers, 2,300 meters. The Stone Avenue at Avebury is 2,300 meters. This step-down voltage transformer and the Avenue of Sphinxes connecting Karnak into Luxor Temple is also 2,300 meters.
What about the Sphinx on Giza?
So the Sphinx on Giza, that's a bit of speculation about what that thing is. I think it's a dynastic monument. I don't think it's contemporary to the actual building of the pyramids.
Really?
Yeah, it's later, during the dynastic period.
Okay.
It was normally just a bedrock outcrop at the center of the Sphinx enclosure.
How much later do you think it was? Because we know that there was water erosion on it, right?
Correct. Now that water erosion could also be chemical erosion. So if Giza was a chemical manufacturing facility and there was ever anything that went wrong, like a cataclysm that ended the function of the pyramids, there could have easily been a chemical leak that could have caused that erosion on the back of the Sphinx. So let's say your acidic solution somehow got out of the specified transportation shafts and onto the surface, it would very easily cause that chemical erosion. If there was like an overflow out of one of the shafts and the chemicals leaked into the back of the Sphinx, that erosion on the back of the Sphinx enclosure could have been caused in a very short time period by acidic erosion and not necessarily rainwater.
Okay.
Yeah, but if we're talking about the Egyptian pyramids being built during the Saharan wet period, there would have been a lot more rain and water.
Right.
100%.
Yep.
Okay.
Holy shit, man.
So I'm going to run through the rest of this.
Okay, let's do it.
Because your audience has already seen the cumulonimbus thunderstorm generator conversation.
Yes.
So I'm going to speed through this with just a brief overview of how this system works.
Okay.
So the white horse is a symbol of cumulonimbus thunderstorm clouds. And they have these landscape features all over Wiltshire, all over the UK, all over Japan, and they also have them adjacent to the Teotihuacan Serpent Temple complex that were creating thunderstorms. So going back to the conversation of type 1 civilization activities, controlling and manipulating weather is one of those processes. So this civilization was making landscape features that could generate cumulonimbus thunderstorm clouds, and they're all over Wiltshire.
Okay.
So this is just a couple pictures of these White Horse Hills.
Yep.
Essentially, these things are all carved from chalk bedrock. And that chalk bedrock was utilized in a chemical manufacturing process that created circulation of hot air into the atmosphere, which generates thunderstorms.
Right.
That's exactly how it happens naturally. You can see hot air sweeping off of this cliff face, and they were utilizing this chalk in a chemical reaction that was exothermic that generated heat. That heat is swept off of the cliff face into the atmosphere to create these cumulonimbus thunderstorms, the white horse.
Right.
An ancient symbol in tons of mythology that connects the white horse to thunderstorms and lightning. So these systems are all over the place. They're all over Wiltshire, UK. We find them in Japan, and we also found them at the Teotihuacan Serpent Temple Complex. One recent development that I want to bring to your attention is the East Nor obelisk. So there's obelisks at the top of these systems now, and the obelisks commemorate the place where the standing stone or obelisk lightning rod at the top of these systems originally sat. So these are modern features that they built on top of these things, but originally there was a standing stone or obelisk at the top of these things. This was corroborated by the team at the Marlborough College that also has one of these white horses. This is the oldest one, the Uffington White Horse, which actually dates back to the Neolithic period. And there's a mound here called St. George's Mound. You know, the mythology of St. George slaying the dragon?
Yeah.
They say that this mound is where the dragon fell and touched the earth. Again, a mythological, symbolical explanation that this is a place where lightning struck.
Right.
So again, same thing as Kukulkan, the feathered serpent, telling you exactly what these systems are for. They were flooded. The calcium carbonate chalk was heated during natural lightning strikes, creating calcium oxide. The reservoir at the top was flooded, creating calcium hydroxide, an exothermic reaction. That heat is swept into the air, creating convection of warm, moist air that generates cumulonimbus thunderstorm clouds. Okay, so the East Nor obelisk. This is something new and important. So this is the obelisk at the top of one of these White Horse Hills. So the thing was crumbling, and they put out a bid for the restoration of this obelisk. Look at the name of the, down there at the bottom left. The name
Nimbus Conservation.
Nimbus Conservation. So these white horses are cumulonimbus thunderstorm generators. Nimbus means cloud.
Yeah.
The team and the company that won the restoration project for the obelisk on top of one of these white horse cumulonimbus thunderstorm generators is Nimbus Conservation.
Well, isn't that fun?
Secrets in plain sight.
Yep.
They love to put this information right out in front of you. So by carving these white horses on the faces of these hills, they are telling you that A, they know exactly what they were for. And by learning to read the symbols, we can also figure out what they're for. So if you see a white horse carved in something, it's telling you that that landscape feature was designed to create thunderstorms.
What is the production company that has the white horse with wings at the beginning of the movies?
Paramount.
Isn't there a lightning strike too? With that
Probably
animation?
is, yeah.
I think there is. You should find the intro animation for that.
Yeah, so
for that
there's
old
people
school
in the
Paramount.
know, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the guy who built the Cheryl obelisk was a member of the Royal Society. The Royal Society is an academic institution that was basically the foundation of the Royal Society of Chemistry. Again, these people's family legacies trace back to the alchemists of medieval Europe, and they established the Royal Society of Chemistry. They were studying physics, chemistry, and they were obsessed with ancient knowledge. And the Royal Society was designed as an academic institution to bring this ancient knowledge into the modern times. So the guy who built the Cheryl obelisk on one of these White Horse Hills is a member of the Royal Society, a student of ancient knowledge, ancient physics and chemistry.
Did you find it, Steve?
It's TriStar.
It's TriStar.
See the big thunderstorm?
Yep.
In the back,
the big
in
Nimbus.
the background. Yeah, and there's probably
And
again
then
the
here comes
white
the
horse
white
that
horse
comes.
galloping.
There you go. Secrets in plain sight. The white horse.
That's wild.
Is a symbol of cumulonimbus thunderstorm clouds. And they are carved into these landscape features all over Wiltshire, UK. Okay, so let's look at a mathematical connection. Over here on the left, if you'll go back to, over here on the left, that's the white horse at Cheryl Hill. The distance between the Cheryl White Horse and the center of Avebury is 5,300 meters.
5,330 meters.
Okay. This is the distance from the Hackpen White Horse to the center of Avebury.
5,330
Also
meters.
5,300 meters. So there is a mathematical.
How far away are these two locations?
So they're right on the side of each other. One we're looking east, one we're looking west.
Okay.
So let me go back to this one. So you see Avebury. This one is to the left of Avebury, and this next one is to the right of Avebury.
Got it.
These are supposedly natural landscape features, just hills, nothing to see here. They're just regular old hills.
Right.
But they are exactly 5,300 meters away from the center of Avebury. Okay. This next one is the distance from Avebury to the sanctuary, which is the head end of the Serpent Temple complex that is connected through one of these stone avenues.
53 or 23?
2,300 meters. Okay, so we have 5,300 meters distance from the storm generator to the voltage receiver, and 2,300 meters distance down the path of voltage distribution and reduction into the head end. 5,300 and 2,300. Okay, so now we're in Egypt. This is the Nile River. On the left, that is the Hatshepsut Mortuary Temple, where there is a landscape feature that looks exactly like the cumulonimbus White Horse Hills of Wiltshire, England. Look at the distance between that cliff face and the the Karnak Temple, 5,300 meters.
Interesting.
And the distance of the Sphinx Avenue connecting Karnak Temple into the head end of the Luxor Temple is also 2,300 meters. A mathematical connection between the proximity of the thunderstorm generators at Avebury and the primary voltage receiver component, and the distance of the step-down voltage transformer system. Mathematically calculated, 5,300 meters away from the storm generators and 2,300 meters of this step-down voltage transformer that's reducing the voltage into the head end of the temple complex. It's also 5,300 meters from the White Horse at Teotihuacan to the Feathered Serpent Temple.
That's one hell of a coincidence, man.
It's pretty crazy.
That is pretty wild.
So again, we were just talking about mica and how Stonehenge and Avebury are at the center of these White Horse systems. Again, you have a thunderstorm generator that provides the electrical storm itself that is directly connected into these landscape chemical reactor and fertilizer generator systems. So the Avebury is much more.
So the main difference between the ones in South America and Central America and Egypt and White Horse Hills is they were actually making gold and silver with all this lightning.
So in Teotihuacan, Mesoamerica, yes, that is my preliminary hypothesis on the function of the Teotihuacan complex is that they were extracting gold and silver ore inside the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon using mercury.
Yeah. Okay.
Here in Egypt, you could use acids for the exact same gold and silver ore processing operation.
Wow.
Okay, so the Giza Plateau is also a White Horse generator that was designed to produce cumulonimbus thunderstorm clouds.
Right. I remember we went over this on the last one.
Yeah. Okay, so black basalt, I'm just going to touch this real quick because I mentioned that black basalt is a material for heat storage. This just goes into, okay, so here's some of the saw blade cuts in the black basalt at Abu Sir.
Damn.
Yeah, you can see the lip there.
Yeah.
Right, and you could see the thickness of the blade. So that overhang of the lip shows you the thickness of the blade.
So it was a fat blade.
So it's about this thick. It's about a centimeter or two.
God.
Yeah. Here's a saw cut in the black basalt at the Eastern Temple adjacent to the Great Pyramid. And this just shows some quarry locations where this black basalt was quarried. Here we have a couple of research papers. Again, I said that if I make any claims regarding the function of the Egyptian pyramids or any other structures, I would show some research that supports that conclusion. So here's a paper called The Utilization of Basalt Stone as a sensible heat storage material. So we talked about black basalt being used for thermal applications and the storage of heat. We still do it today. Investigation of the thermal properties of some basalt samples in Egypt. Basalt fibers being used for electrical, acoustical, and heat-resistant applications. So these are just modern research papers that corroborate this hypothesis, supporting the idea that basalt is a material used for heat storage within the Egyptian pyramids. So we already talked about the Giza Plateau being a cumulonimbus thunderstorm generator. It just so happens that the geometry of the Great Pyramid connects rainstorms lightning, and rainbows, and it has the precise slope angle to be able to perceive a rainbow. So again, there's communication encoded in all of the ancient structures around the world.
So every rainbow has the same slope?
The slope angle of the Great Pyramid matches the angles that are necessary to perceive a rainbow.
Whoa.
And if you remember, it may have been your conversation with Randall Carlson talking about Malcolm Bendel's thunderstorm generator.
Right.
The 52-degree slope angle of the face of the Great Pyramid is the perfect vector for the circulation of air that made his thunderstorm generator work.
Right.
That 52 degrees is the ideal vector of this hot air convection that creates thunderstorms. This is super important. I can't stress enough how critical this single piece of mathematics encoded in the angles of the Great Pyramid is literally telling you that the slope angle of the Great Pyramid not only encodes rainstorms, lightning, and rainbows, but it is the ideal vector for the circulation of this hot air convection in the atmosphere to actually create a thunderstorm.
Have you ever talked to Randall Carlson about this?
I've never been introduced to Randall. I don't know how. Again, so I've talked to you privately about how my work has kind of been excommunicated from the community at large. A lot of these guys, they have to know who I am.
Excommunicated? What do you mean?
Excommunicated. I'm not part of the clique, man. I'm not in the group for whatever reason.
I'm sure Randall would love to talk to you about this stuff.
And, you know, Randall and I are brothers from another mother.
Yeah.
And I know that if he got word of this, he would love to talk about this ancient chemistry and lightning-based physics.
Without a doubt.
I would love to get introduced to Randall. I highly respect Randall. And again, you know, my work is kind of a middle ground. So it's not tombs and temples, and it's also not aliens and power plants. So there's two polar opposites within the community of alternative ancient history.
Yeah.
That if you're neither one of those two,
yeah, those are the most sexy ones, right?
You fall in the middle of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people are interested in the middle of the spectrum.
Right.
So they're either aliens and power plants,
right,
or temples and tombs. And my work doesn't satisfy either one of those things.
Right.
And I also don't toe the party line in terms of the rhetoric of lost ancient high technology. I don't think this is lost ancient high technology because we haven't lost any of this. We still have industrial scale chemical manufacturing.
Well, I mean, we've lost
our connection to nature.
Yeah.
Which is what is essential in making all of these ancient systems operate.
Right.
That's the biggest difference between our modern science and ancient science. Is ancient science is directly connected to spirituality and recognition of awe and inspiration from nature. Today, we don't have any awe and inspiration from nature.
No,
we just pump electricity into the systems in 24/7.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's all about convenience.
Yeah, these were ancient rituals that worked in conjunction with the forces and cycles of nature. The chemical reactions within the Egyptian pyramids were not 24/7. It took time.
Yeah, it's just like when people talk about mainly lost technology, it's like no one can wrap their mind around what modern technology we have today that can cut these granite things so precisely and lift them that high in the air and move them across such a vast landscape.
Right.
Like that's incomputable to people.
Right. Yeah.
So that's, I think, and then also trying to figure out how things like those vases were made so precisely. Like there must be some sort of technology that we don't understand. I think that's where people are coming from that when they say that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Yeah.
But from a modern perspective, we could move those stones. We could cut them and we can move them. We just don't have any reason to.
That 1,000-ton obelisk, we can move it?
100%. We have so are you familiar with a gantry crane?
No.
Okay, so pull up the Dyson gantry crane.
Dyson gantry crane.
It's DIASUN gantry crane.
Okay.
Yeah. Gantry crane.
The world's longest, strongest fixed gantry crane located at a shipyard in China, known for its record-breaking 20,000-ton lifting capacity.
Good God. Again, there is a fallacy in the rhetoric of
you build put this on a track,
Correct. This is a modern. So again, people say that we can't lift these stones in modern day. That is absolutely not true. We can absolutely do it
with this thing,
with modern stuff. So
but this is like a marvel of modern technology.
Sure, 100%.
Now go back 5,000
So we
years.
don't know how they were doing it back then.
Right.
All I'm saying is that today we absolutely have. People in the community say that we can't lift these stones today. That is nonsense. Our modern gantry cranes could lift that unfinished obelisk like it was a pebble.
And move it 500 miles?
The moving is where it gets complicated.
And lift it up? How high is those
gantry
stones?
cranes only go up and down.
Right.
They're used for moving stuff on shipyards. So a boat sails in, they move the stuff up, and then you have other equipment. But we do have modern technology that could technically do this. But why would we do it? We use different materials today.
And then how do you
There's
move it
no
up
reason for us to do
that
this
high
today.
to the king's chamber?
Correct. Yeah. So I'm not saying there aren't unanswered questions when it comes to the moving and lifting. There 100% are. In my opinion, I think they had ancient machines that were very similar to our modern engineering, made of different materials.
Okay. Not metal?
Possibly metal.
Okay.
But similar stuff.
Right.
Right.
How do you think it was powered?
The physics of lifting. So are you familiar with how a pulley works, a compound pulley?
Yeah.
Right. So if I had a compound pulley here, I could lift a ton using just an example.
Yeah,
right,
I get it.
Right. Compound pulleys.
Okay.
It's the exact same way that they moved stone in the ancient world with ancient pulley systems.
Okay.
So I think that our modern lifting technology is very, very similar to what they were doing in the ancient time. Look up Roman crane. Yeah, so the Romans also had cranes where they were lifting, there you go. So this is cranes that were used in the Roman time that also had pulleys.
Yeah.
So I think they had very similar technology to this. The Greeks and the Romans got everything that they knew about cutting and moving stone from the Egyptians. So I think that they had huge machines like this. Absolutely massive wooden and metal machines.
And dude, I mean, way off subject, but have you seen the giant city cathedral complex that was built into the side of a mountain in India?
Kailasanatha, or what is the name of the other one? Yeah. They carved it into the side of a mountain.
It's one piece.
Yeah.
It's completely nuts. It was Praveen was showing us this.
Yeah.
I think it might have been Kailasa Temple. I think that's right.
Kailasanatha Temple is another one. Yeah, this one here. No, Kailasa Temple.
Yes,
and the Ellora Caves.
Look at that, bro. So it's a negative relief fucking megalithic cathedral.
Yeah.
The amount of planning that had to go into that.
Yeah. 100%.
Incomprehensible.
But you have to imagine there were probably tens of thousands of people working on that.
Oh yeah. I mean, go to that. Yeah. Go to that one.
It's spectacular.
The aerial view is nuts.
Do they know what type of stone that is?
Yeah, they do. I forget what it is though.
Is it basalt?
I think it was basalt. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. But yeah, it's a beautiful.
I mean, it just goes to show you, like, take the time machine back thousands of years and humanity was just on a completely different page.
Yeah. So we have a completely different mindset today.
Yeah.
And our perspective of things that are important, it
gives me the chills, dude.
Yeah. So this today for us is not important.
Not at all.
We would never do something like this today. We would never carve stuff from stone because it's not.
What's my ROI on this bitch?
Exactly, right? There is no reason for the investment, which goes back to the reason for the building of the Egyptian pyramids is these are valuable infrastructure projects. So again, going back to the concept of stone circles and passage chamber reactors being basic implementation of natural physics and chemistry that were designed to try and rebuild civilization. You have to have an ROI for building these things. So if I build some stone circles and I make some passage chamber reactors and we can harness iron oxide and we can bring lightning to certain areas for fertilizer, our civilization has a much better probability of survival, which would have been critical at the end of the last ice age.
And for a much smaller civilization.
Sure.
Probably wouldn't work for 10 billion people.
So the intention of all of these things were not short-term benefits, but it was rather that all of the successive generations could benefit from these structures. Because once you build them, they basically are here forever. Like stone circles are still here today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they built these things, again, this Neolithic survivor civilization that survived the end of the last ice age and all of the massive flooding. They had to do something. So it was study and learn from nature, implement what nature was teaching them, and rebuild civilization using this megalithic stone technology.
Yeah.
That culminated in the building of the Egyptian pyramids. So now let's dive into the function of the Egyptian pyramids.
Let's do it.
All right. All of the preceding information was establishing a foundation for the implementation of natural resources in the operation of ancient structures around the world, with a power source coming from telluric currents and lightning, the implementation of subterranean natural resources for conductivity enhancers, construction materials that were utilized in specific functions in the operation of each structure, and subterranean gas reserves.
Yes.
So all of these factors were integrated into the operation of ancient structures around the planet. And the same mechanisms of operation apply to the function of the Egyptian pyramids. I think that is of paramount importance in any hypothesis on the function of structures around the world, is that the same mechanisms of operation have to apply, so that there is a direct evolution from point A to point B that connects the technology around the world.
Got it.
So, for example, the function of stone circles, utilizing subterranean telluric currents and conductivity enhancers like subterranean water to create charge accumulation that's going to attract lightning strikes, also directly applies to the function of the Great Pyramid.
So what you're basically saying is, if you find stone circles in different parts of the world, right, megalithic stone circles, there's not going to be one stone circle that has one function and another stone circle that has a completely different function.
They all have the same function.
All, and the same. So you're saying the same thing applies to pyramids. If there's going to be these giant pyramids, you're saying that there's the same function for, they all have to have a very same or similar function.
Not necessarily similar function.
Okay.
But similar mechanisms of operation that drive the function.
Okay.
What makes the system work.
Got it.
For example, with the Egyptian pyramids, the function of each one is different. Step pyramid, methane. Red pyramid, ammonia. Bent pyramid, urea. Great pyramid, sulfuric acid. Central pyramid, hydrochloric acid.
Okay.
The functions are different and the products are different, but the mechanisms of operation, the step-by-step series of operations that make it work are the same.
Okay.
So we'll see that when I walk through the function of each one of the Egyptian pyramids, the drivers, the step-by-step series of operations that make the internal reaction chambers work are all the same.
Got it.
That mostly involve the manipulation of water inside of the structure.
Okay.
So let's start with the step pyramid for the extraction of bedrock deposits of methane. So at the beginning of the conversation, we talked about these subterranean natural resources like gas deposits being the impetus for the construction of ancient sites around the planet.
Yeah.
So oracular natural gas seeps are all around the Mediterranean and Middle East.
Okay.
And these natural gas methane seeps, so methane gas seeping up from the bedrock, was the source of these eternal flames. So a lot of these religions like Zoroastrianism, they used to worship at these natural gas eternal flames, where this methane coming out of the bedrock was ignited and there was flame shooting up from the ground, very similar to what we saw at Pyramid Coromanta, where the gas coming from inside of the structure was ignited and there's flame shooting at the top of it. That's what we find at these natural gas oracular methane gas seeps, like the oracle at Delphi. was a natural gas methane eternal flame.
Wow.
Okay? So it just so happens, of course it does, because we've provided scientific evidence that connects these things, that a lot of these natural gas methane seeps were originally ignited by lightning that created these burning flames coming out of the ground. Okay, so let's go back to the mindset of a civilization that built these things.
Okay.
And they wanted to mimic the forces of nature. They saw that this gas coming out of the ground could provide flame. Flame is a very, very useful material for heating, lighting, and for metallurgical applications.
Yeah.
So they designed a structure that could extract this gas from the bedrock. So here is a bedrock cap of a natural gas methane deposit. And you can see that this bedrock is permeated with tons of carbon material. That's what makes it black.
Okay.
This is the inside of the bedrock, inside and below the step pyramid.
Okay.
It is permeated with this high carbon content that is indicative of a subterranean natural gas reserve. And I'll show a paper here in just a minute that corroborates this hypothesis of the presence of hydrocarbon deposits below the pyramids in Lower Egypt. So the step pyramid is essentially...
Lower meaning northern.
Correct. Yeah. So the step pyramid is essentially comparable to a modern day fracking facility.
Whoa.
Where they were pumping water into the subterranean deposit below the step pyramid to extract these deposits of bedrock methane. And the step pyramid was not originally a pyramid. The first part of the structure was a single level platform. So it goes back to the function of the pyramid body for maintaining the internal pressure and preventing atmospheric contamination. So let's say, for example, they noticed that the pressure was not being maintained with this single level platform. So they added another platform. This also reinforced the structure's ability to contain the methane within the structure and prevent environmental contamination. They eventually added more on top of it, creating the first stepped pyramid. This is the evolution of pyramid design, is building these tiered systems that were at the core of some of the early pyramids.
So this coal that's deep in the ground.
Correct.
It releases methane when you drill into it or something?
So natural gas forms in the bedrock by ancient decaying organic material.
Okay.
That creates these subterranean deposits of gas.
Right.
That's how we find these today. And you tap into these subterranean gas deposits. And today we do the same thing where you pump water into the subterranean gas deposit.
Okay.
And by increasing and decreasing the pressure inside of the deposit allows the extraction of the natural gas.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep.
So go back to that last one real quick so I can look at it again.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a water aquifer above the coal layer.
This is a modern diagram. I'll show you an animation of the step pyramid.
Okay.
Let's move forward to that so you can see the actual configuration of the step pyramid and how this thing worked.
Okay.
So did you hear about this paper that the step pyramid was built using a hydraulic mechanism?
No.
Okay, so there was a paper that was recently published about the use of hydraulics in building the step pyramid. They mention in this paper the implementation of a structure called Giza El Mudir as a water treatment facility. 3 years ago, way before this paper was ever published, I was the first to release the hypothesis that Giza El Mudir, located to the southwest of the Step Pyramid, was a water treatment facility. So this is an academic, peer-reviewed paper that substantiates my original hypothesis about the function of the Giza El Mudir reservoir, which you can see here. See the Giza El Mudir check dam? This is a diagram coming from their research paper.
Okay.
And this is a diagram that I made 3 years ago. indicating the same mechanisms of operation connecting Nile River flood channels and the function of this Giza El Mudir water treatment facility.
Interesting.
Okay, this is step number 1, is purifying the water in Giza El Mudir. And this will also apply to all the other Egyptian pyramids. You need purified water first because you don't want to use river water for chemical reactions.
You need pure water.
Yeah.
For the chemicals.
Yeah, you want to remove all the contaminants, debris, etc., and purify your water first. So that's the function of Giza El Mudir. I also proposed that the dry moat enclosure surrounding the step pyramid wasn't actually a dry moat, it's a reservoir. And that same idea was substantiated by this research team in their paper regarding the utilization of hydraulics to build the step pyramid. I talked about all of this 3 years ago, and this paper implemented some of the same mechanisms of operation that I proposed several years ago in their paper regarding the construction of the pyramid. So instead of talking about the function, I don't know where they got this material, but it's the exact same thing that I proposed several years ago. And no one has ever talked about Giza El Mudir before. So it's a very obscure structure that very few people even know about. And all of the subscribers of my channel were like, dude, they stole that from you. I'm like,
so this academic paper is just basically proposing that Giza El Mudir was an ancient water purification.
Correct. A reservoir for water purification. And
which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Even academics are trying to do that.
Yeah. Instead of going down the route of using this to talk about the function, they went the safe academic route in regard to construction. And I disagree with almost everything they say about the actual construction process. But every step-by-step mechanism they talk about this paper comes directly from my hypothesis about the function of the step pyramid. So we have the reservoir surrounding the step pyramid filled with water. The Latvian scientific mission to Saqqara in 2017 did GPR scanning and showed that there's a connection. You see this connection to the Great Trench and A and B? There's 2 shafts that connect the external reservoir into the subterranean tunnel system below the step pyramid. Those shafts are used to introduce water from the external reservoir, which you can see there as the Great Trench, into the subterranean tunnel system that was excavated down into this bedrock deposit of methane.
Whoa.
So here we have the external reservoir surrounding the step pyramid filled with water. You see these orange shafts?
Yep.
Those are connected directly into the reservoir. And these 11 vertical shafts are your pump mechanisms.
Those are all there?
Yeah, this is original configuration of the step pyramid.
And those shafts are just made of stone?
Correct. They're excavated from the bedrock.
Jesus.
Okay, so how does this thing work?
It's a tomb, bro.
Yeah. So water comes from the external reservoir through the inlet shaft that was corroborated by the 2017 Latvian scientific mission GPR scans.
Yeah.
The water flows from the reservoir into the subterranean tunnels below the step pyramid. You then increase and decrease the pressure. This is exactly what we do with modern fracking. By increasing and decreasing the pressure in this water-filled tunnel system, they are able to extract these bedrock deposits of methane. And I'll run it so you can see. Okay, so now we're decreasing the pressure, which allows the methane to percolate up out of the system.
The red is the methane?
No, the yellow is the methane.
The yellow is the methane.
That fills the central rectangular chamber.
Okay.
Is your extraction chamber.
Got it.
Then you increase the pressure again. It pumps the methane out of the system and increases the pressure in the subterranean tunnel. And the process is repeated over and over, increasing and decreasing the pressure inside of the system, which is extracting the methane and then pumping it out of the system.
Where is it going?
It's going to the collection station that is located in the eastern section of the complex and also being distributed through a subterranean shaft that leads to the Red Pyramid. And these subterranean shafts that link the Egyptian pyramids have been corroborated anecdotally by, like, for example, the father of Yusuf Awian.
Yeah.
That said they used to be able to go into a shaft in Saqqara and walk underground in a tunnel system. They either had to walk, crawl, or swim through a tunnel system that went from Saqqara all the way to Giza. So there's underground shafts that connect all of the Egyptian pyramid sites below ground.
Holy shit.
This has been substantiated by a number of people that I know in Egypt that have corroborated the existence of the subterranean tunnels. Okay, so again,
the methane is in what form?
Gas.
Gas.
Methane is a gas, correct. So again, we'll just run the system so you can see the process of increasing and decreasing the pressure inside of the tunnel system and the extraction of this bedrock methane.
Okay.
And again, the existence of this bedrock methane will be substantiated in an academic research paper discussing the geology below the pyramids of Lower Egypt in just a minute regarding hydrocarbon. Methane is a hydrocarbon.
Okay.
There's an entire paper talking about hydrocarbon deposits below the pyramids, an actual academic paper. So that gets into the function of the southern tomb. This rectangular granite container that has a plug in the top of it. You can see the groove around the plug. The plug was designed to be removed from that container. And the interior of this container, they found green copper oxide, which is an indication that this container was lined with copper. So it's a huge methane reinforced storage container.
Whoa.
And by releasing that plug, that whole southern shaft was filled with water. And a good way to purify methane is by percolating it up through water. So you can see on the diagrams here that let me go back one. The southern shaft is directly connected. See this long tube here going from the main chambers below the step pyramid into the southern tomb? There's a connection that links these two things.
Yep.
And that was a methane distribution shaft that connected the extraction system into the purification system at the southern side of the complex.
Whoa.
So they were percolating methane gas from that container through the water-filled southern shaft that was purifying the methane gas.
God
and
damn.
Applications for methane. So why did they want to have methane?
Right.
Domestic applications, heating and lighting,
cooking,
things like methane lamps, cooking, normal basic stuff, but then also for industrial chemical synthesis. So methane is a synthesis gas where you can break down the methane and use it to make other chemicals, which is exactly what we're going to see regarding the function of the red pyramid.
Jesus Christ.
You can also use it as a high temperature flame for metallurgical applications. So I think this is, again, a critical part of my research is looking at the function of all the pyramids.
This is like crazy, right? How can you have, which is, I mean, just by what you just laid out,
yeah,
it seems very clear that all the pieces to that step pyramid were very clearly doing what you're saying they're doing. They're extracting something out of the earth and purifying it as a gas. And that is kind of it's not like a super high technological thing to do. It's something we still do today with different machines.
Very basic.
Very basic, right?
Yeah.
They're extracting raw materials out of the earth, like natural materials out of the earth.
Correct.
So if they were doing that with a step pyramid, it's hard to imagine that they were doing some fucking crazy alien maser technology with the Great Pyramid at the same time.
I agree. Yeah, that's my whole point.
Yes.
Is that the mechanisms of operation.
They wouldn't be doing something so primitive over here and something super high tech over here.
Right. So for example, using the external reservoir as a water supply to increase pressure inside of the structures applies to all of the Egyptian pyramids. They all have external reservoirs, and the same mechanisms of operation using water to manipulate forces inside of the structure applies to every single Egyptian pyramid. Which I think is, again, it's critical in understanding the overall function of the pyramids, is that the step-by-step process that you use to describe the function of one structure has to apply to all of the structures. Yeah. So we can't have alien maser beams because that technology doesn't apply to any of the other pyramids.
Well, let me ask you this. What evidence do we have that the Step Pyramid and the Great Pyramid were constructed in the same time?
That's a good question. So it's a conventional chronology in terms of the series of Egyptian pyramids. Step Pyramid being the first major pyramid. Then you have Seneferu in the beginning of the 4th dynasty, building the Pyramid of Meidum. The Red Pyramid and the Bent Pyramid were all built, again, this is the conventional timeline, were all built by the pharaoh Seneferu. Then you have the pyramid complex at Giza being built by Khufu, Khafra, and Menkaura. So these were successive generations in different dynasties. So 3rd dynasty, 4th dynasty, and 5th dynasty. The pyramid complex at Abu Sir was built during the 5th dynasty.
This is the conventional
timeline, correct. In my opinion, they were all built as a systematic, integrated infrastructure project, probably in the same series, but intended as one part of a much bigger picture.
Okay.
So the step pyramid probably came first because you need that methane
to produce
then
all the other stuff.
Use it in the red pyramid.
Got it.
But they were always intended to be connected. So part of the same plan, but just built systematically in a series.
Got it. Okay.
It's entirely possible that all these things were going up at once.
It's just
again,
crazy that the Great Pyramid is so fucking precise.
The scope of the construction would be even more impressive if everything was being built at once. In my opinion, they are an interconnected network.
Okay.
You cannot have one without the other. So it's all part of the same architectural plan. From a construction standpoint, you would want to build one first, and then the next one, and then the next one. But if you are a Type 1 civilization that's building these things, everything goes up at once.
Yeah. So the methane, how was that methane utilized in the fucking Great Pyramid?
Methane doesn't go to the Great Pyramid. It goes to the Red Pyramid.
And turned into ammonia.
Correct.
And that's the Haber
device. Process.
The Haber process, which you described beautifully.
Yeah. Thank you.
And you have, do you also have images of that guy who built the pyramid, the 1/4 model of the Red Pyramid?
Yeah, I have a video.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, we're going to show the video.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll talk about.
I want to see that.
Oh, dude, it's mind blowing. So let's talk about the Serappeum.
Okay.
People say Serappeum.
You corrected me. You're the first person who ever taught me that it's actually Serappeum.
Well, so again, there's all of this kind of bitching back and forth of YouTube people about the pronunciation of these things. Americans say Serappeum. Egyptians say Serappeum.
Okay.
I've been living in Egypt for 3 years. They say Serappeum. I say Serappeum.
Okay.
Like the Osirion, people say it's Osirion or Osirion.
Yeah.
It's a temple dedicated to Osiris. Thus, the pronunciation is Osirion.
Right.
It's not Osirion or Osirion. It's Osirion. Right. It's a temple dedicated to Osiris.
Right.
So again, it doesn't matter how we pronounce them.
Right.
It's completely irrelevant because that's not what they called them back in the day anyway.
Yeah.
So there's all this. Anyway, Serappeum.
Right.
And I will continue.
If you call it Serappeum, you're a poser.
I will continue to say Serappeum and Osirion. So Serappeum. Nobody's ever proposed a hypothesis for the function of these things.
There's been, Chris Dunn had a crazy theory. He I don't say it was a theory. It was like a speculation.
Okay. What did he say? I haven't heard it.
And I don't understand it yet because I haven't read the book, but he told me to read this book called Engines of Creation.
Okay.
And I think he was alluding to the fact that they could have been like batteries for something.
Okay.
Something like the interior of them was very specific. Like there was something that was going on in the middle of them.
Okay.
That had something to do with a battery.
Okay.
That's all I know.
Okay. This is very different than that.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah. So we have here these huge granite containers. So when we talk about the materials, whether it's red granite or black granite, it all has quartz, which if you use an electric current, you can induce an electric field in the stone material, which is going to create ultrasound. So I disagree with the conventional interpretation of the function of the granite. Most people say it's for piezoelectricity, where you apply mechanical stress to create electric current. I disagree with that.
And they did a test. They did a test where they put a metal probe at the end of a piece of granite, and they squeezed it at the other end, and it actually detected electrons coming out of it.
Yeah.
This was this NASA guy, Friedman Freund, who did this study to detect earthquakes using earthquake lights. So these lights shot out through the ground. It was deep igneous rock grinding together and creating these charged electrons that would shoot up into the atmosphere.
Yeah. Piezoelectric discharge created during seismic activity. 100% this happens. But it's mechanical stress. Like you have to squeeze the granite. Mechanical.
Or it has to rub against each other.
Correct.
Like in an earthquake.
Correct. Yeah. How is that happening in a pyramid?
And if the earth underneath the pyramid is seismically active and there's igneous rock rubbing against each other, and you have some giant shafts going down to the ground.
You would need red granite below the pyramid. So the bedrock of the Giza Plateau is limestone.
What about below that?
It's limestone. It's all limestone.
All the way down?
It's all limestone, dude. It's called the Makatam Formation. The bedrock of the Giza Plateau was the bottom of an ancient seafloor. Hundreds of millions of years ago, it's called the Tethys Sea. That's why the bedrock of the Giza Plateau is filled with shells. It was the bottom of an ancient seafloor. Hundreds of millions of years ago. It was the bottom of an ocean. And that limestone was deposited at the bottom of the Tethys seafloor. Again, we're talking hundreds of millions of years ago. And there are hydrothermal features on the Giza Plateau that created these iron ore deposits. So there's no granite below the Great Pyramid. It's limestone. It's all limestone. So there is no piezoelectric material below the Great Pyramid. It's all limestone.
Interesting.
So going back to my hypothesis, is that they're using nature's electricity as the power source.
Right. So Serappeum.
Serappeum. Yes.
So what was Serappeum doing?
Okay. Sonohydrogen, using ultrasound to make hydrogen from water.
In English?
Yeah. So basically you fill the Serappeum with water. Lightning would strike an area known as the Bubastion. The Bubastion is connected into the Serappeum via an avenue of Sphinxes. So we talked about the Sphinx avenues being utilized to direct and reduce voltage into specific components. So the voltage is sent into the Serappeum. That induced electric field inside of the red granite is going to produce ultrasound. So this is a paper here that talks about using ultrasound waves and water to break down the water molecule to create oxygen and hydrogen. Okay. So I'll show you a diagram that. So again, anytime I make a claim, like you can use ultrasound to create hydrogen, I'm showing you research that corroborates that idea. So this is a paper, Sonication to Hydrogenization, Sonohydrogen, using ultrasound to break down water molecules to liberate hydrogen and oxygen. This is a depiction of how that happens, where you fill your container with water. You have an ultrasound transducer in that water that generates the ultrasound. These boxes are ultrasound transducers, which means they convert an electrical signal into ultrasound. That's called the inverse piezoelectric property of quartz. Not piezoelectricity, the inverse piezoelectric property, where you're using nature's electricity. Again, they aren't power plants. They weren't producing electricity. They were using nature's electricity to induce an electric field in the red granite box that generates ultrasound
For
the production of hydrogen. In the Serappeum. So again, we talked about the Sphinx Avenue.
And how do you bottle that hydrogen?
So it was collected in an apparatus that was located above the Serappeum. I have I have tons of footage called Sunday Site Visits. And one of the most popular on my channel was our expedition to investigate the function of the Serappeum, where I showed evidence that there was originally a structure above the Serappeum.
Okay.
Yeah, so a collection vessel above the Serappeum.
Got it.
So this is the configuration of the Serappeum Temple Complex. And you can see there at the bottom, that's a structure called the Bubastion. And there's a bedrock outcrop there that is the highest point of elevation in the Saqqara Temple Complex.
Okay.
Which would have been the perfect place for your obelisk. This stone outcrop here on the bottom left. The voltage from that lightning strike was distributed down into the Serappeum.
Okay.
The Serappeum was filled with water. The entire subterranean tunnel complex was filled with water. The voltage from that lightning strike goes through the bedrock into these ultrasound transducers, creating ultrasound vibrations that break down the water into hydrogen and oxygen. Hydrogen and oxygen.
That gets shuttled somehow into this chamber that's on top.
So the Serappeum is configured with channels that link all of the housings surrounding these ultrasound transducers.
Yep.
There's channels in the ceiling that come out of the housings and link to a central channel that runs up the tunnel system. The entire Serappeum is angled upward from the drain at the back toward the opening where the hydrogen and oxygen were collected.
In the ceiling.
In the ceiling, correct. So as the process continues, more hydrogen and oxygen are liberated from the water. They flow into this channel system that runs at the top of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And they are collected in a structure that is no longer there at the top of the Serappeum.
Whoa, dude.
So the premise for these containers is ultrasound transducers. Okay, voltage is applied, inducing the inverse piezoelectric effect that creates ultrasound. This ultrasound will also apply the exact same mechanisms of operation inside the Great Pyramid, where we're using lightning strikes on the Great Pyramid to induce the inverse piezoelectric effect within the red granite inside the Great Pyramid for this sound catalyst process.
Okay. What do they do with the hydrogen and oxygen that's collected at the Serappeum?
Great question. Hydrogen and oxygen can also be utilized in further chemical manufacturing processes. For example, hydrogen can be utilized to make ammonia.
Okay.
The pure oxygen can be utilized within the Great Pyramid for the production of sulfuric acid.
Okay.
Hydrogen and oxygen also have other applications, like, again, going back to our rocket fuels. Methane, ammonia, and hydrogen are all potential rocket fuels. I don't agree with that, but there's tons of applications for these things. High temperature flames, metallurgy.
Right, okay.
But mostly for industrial chemical synthesis. So the Serappeum was utilized to break down water into its constituent hydrogen and oxygen. That hydrogen and oxygen were then utilized in later stages of the chemical manufacturing process. Everything was linked. And all of these structures were integrated into later stages of the manufacturing process.
And this is the type of stuff they would actually use to cut and form these perfect stones.
You're not necessarily cutting stones with flame. Because again, I think they were using metal to cut stuff.
But to get the metal, they would need to have this process already.
Correct. For extracting and processing the metals.
So that makes sense that they would have needed this functioning pyramid and the extraction device to actually create the metals that were used to cut the granite in the Great Pyramid.
Yes, among other applications.
Okay.
But I think the ancient Egyptians had iron. 100%. There's abundant deposits of iron all over the Giza Plateau.
Right.
They had to know what this metal is. And there's evidence. Have you ever heard about the steel plate found inside the Great Pyramid?
No.
So there was a high carbon steel plate that was found inside of the Great Pyramid, which is indicative that they actually had steel. So if you Google metal plate Great Pyramid, this is one of the anomalous artifacts that was discovered in the Great Pyramid. Yep. It says iron plate, not steel, but there was an interesting book. Yeah. So they say it's an iron plate, not steel, but there was a book called Ancient Egyptian Metals and Metallurgy that was written in the 1920s, where the guy makes a great argument that this is actually carbon content iron, which would have been a primitive steel.
Whoa. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. So they did find an iron plate inside of the Great Pyramid. Again, this book, Ancient Egyptian Metals and Metallurgy.
Okay.
The guy that wrote this makes a case that it's actually steel and not iron.
Okay.
So that would completely change the narrative of how they were actually cutting the stones.
Right.
But a fantastic anomalous artifact.
Very well. I wonder where it is now.
Yeah. So I don't know exactly what collection or even if it's on display anywhere. But yeah, it says British Museum there.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, a piece of iron found. So they absolutely had iron. Again, there's false rhetoric for some reason in not only the alternative community, but also in the academic archaeological community that they didn't know about iron. I would argue that they absolutely knew about iron and they were utilizing iron. And all of my research indicates that they were processing iron ore on the Giza Plateau.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So we have step pyramid.
Red pyramid.
Extracting methane. We have the Serappeum using water to produce hydrogen and oxygen. So now we go to the red pyramid. We've talked about this a little bit already, how the configuration of the red pyramid and reverse engineering that led Fritz Haber to developing the modern Haber process, which is manufacturing ammonia on an industrial scale that completely changed our modern civilization during the industrial chemical revolution in the early 1900s. I think he reverse engineered the red pyramid, did the exact same process that I did. That by manipulating temperature and pressure within these reaction chambers, you're able to synthesize ammonia.
Right.
And he did the exact same thing in his modern apparatus. Of course, Ammon, the Egyptian deity, being our etymological root word for ammonia. So the god Ammon is where we get our word for ammonia. Guess what Ammon is the god of?
What?
Fertility.
Oh, okay.
He's the god of fertilizer.
Yeah.
Ammon, the fertilizer god, is where we get our modern word for ammonia that is a fertilizer.
You know, Ammon was also, or Ammon was also synonymous with Zeus.
Yeah.
In antiquity.
The lightning god.
And they used, when they said it was used as like a,
there's connections in mythology.
It was a mythological connection. Well, it was actually documented, it was written down that it was used also by the Egyptians as a way of bringing the invisible God to the visible.
Correct.
And that's where we get amen, when we say amen at the end of a prayer.
Yeah. Manifestation. Yeah. So that's also describing a chemical transformation where you use lightning to create atmospheric nitrate fertilizers, the invisible to the visible.
Right.
And the red pyramid is literally designed to capture lightning in a bottle. So it's the same knowledge of atmospheric nitrate production during lightning strikes that is implemented into the technology of the red pyramid. Using the induced electric fields from lightning strikes to drive these chemical reactions. And we've already covered a lot of the basics about the red pyramid. So I just want to move through some animations that are going to show the process a little bit better.
Okay.
So the primary steam reformer was converting methane gas into hydrogen and carbon monoxide. So I'm going to run this animation and you'll be able to see the process.
Is this full screen or is this small, Steve?
I'm making this full screen.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have the inlet shaft here. that was introducing the methane into the reaction chambers. And I showed in the previous episode how these formations, these fluid dynamic formations, were actually replicated in our experiments where we produced these exact same wave formations in a model of the bottom of the red pyramid. Did I show this demonstration?
I don't think so.
All right, let me show this real quick. So this container has the basic dimensions of the bottom of the red pyramid.
Okay.
And you'll notice that when water fills this basin, it crashes up in the southwestern corner. It rotates back around, and then it crashes up in the southeastern corner and northwestern corner. There's two wave formations that happen during the filling process.
Let's see it.
So basically, this very rudimentary model shows that by injecting water from the same vector that it was used to introduce water into the red pyramid, it creates this exact same fluid dynamic pattern with the wave formation in both adjacent corners of the red pyramid. So a very, very simple demonstration that shows the fluid dynamics involved in the operation of the, I'd have to start all the way back at the beginning.
Let's start over.
We don't want to do that. We'll be here for 10 hours. So we just modeled the fluid dynamics that are involved in the fill process in this modeling series.
Yes.
So now let's animate the process.
Okay.
So we have the primary reaction chamber over on the right. First step is filling it with water. And I'm going to speed through all this stuff because your audience has already heard the mechanisms of operation. So let's just animate the process.
Okay.
Here's methane gas being introduced into the primary steam reformer. The water level is raised inside of the structure, compressing the methane gas into the upper reaction chamber of the primary steam reformer. This is a process that is adiabatic compression, which means there's minimal heat loss in the system. Some of the heat is transferred into the water, which transforms the water into steam. The steam reacts with the methane to create hydrogen and carbon monoxide. That's why this process is called steam reforming in our modern Haber process.
Okay.
The methane reacts with steam to create hydrogen and carbon monoxide. So this is a study talking about scaled up electrically driven methane steam reforming, where they're utilizing catalysts and electric fields to create this methane steam reforming reaction. It just so happens that the nickel catalysts that are used in this process are found in the chemical analysis of the staining on the walls of the red pyramid. The red pyramid was designed and built with specific construction materials that provided the catalysts that would drive these chemical reactions, specifically iron, strontium, nickel, and zinc, which we'll find all throughout the reaction process. These are all the metals that were found in the chemical analysis of the red pyramid staining, with the entire process being driven by induced electric fields. This slide here is coming from a paper talking about the Great Pyramid's ability to focus electric fields. So you see here on the right, that red area?
Yep.
These are concentrated electric fields in the area surrounding the king's chamber and antechamber.
Right.
So we talked about limestone being utilized for storing electric fields, with the geometry of each structure designed to distribute those electric fields into specific areas of the structure. So the Great Pyramid geometry is designed to concentrate the electric fields directly around the king's chamber and antechamber. Red Pyramid, I would bet, has the exact same capability, with the geometry of the red pyramid shifting the concentration of those electric fields to the areas around those reaction chambers. These are just a couple of papers, man. People have started to write papers about my material.
Yeah.
This is a guy named Alexandre Kasyanchuk, a PhD in mathematics and physics, wrote a whole paper talking about my hypothesis on the function of the step pyramid for the extraction of bedrock deposits of methane. You can see here all of the methane deposits circled in red that are concentrated around the Nile River. These hydrocarbon deposits are all over Egypt. He also specifically references my work on the Red Pyramid regarding the manipulation of temperature and pressure inside of the structure.
He actually cites you.
Yeah. This whole paper is about my work.
amazing.
It's called The Egyptian Pyramids Start Making Sense by a PhD in physics and math that is qualified to critique my hypothesis on the manipulation of temperature and pressure inside of the structure. So he wrote a whole paper talking about why my hypothesis makes the Egyptian pyramids make sense. That's the title of his article, Egyptian Pyramids Start Making Sense. Wow. Talking about this exact same process, how the the Red Pyramid was utilized to manipulate temperature and pressure to drive these chemical reactions. This is another article by Andy Hall. I gave Andy a shout out at the beginning of the episode. Andy is an engineer who had a lifelong career designing chemical and electrical facilities. So he designed, built, and operated cogeneration chemical and power plants. An engineer that literally designed these type of facilities. He wrote a whole article about my work, corroborating not only the idea that they are industrial scale chemical manufacturing facilities, but also substantiating my idea about the power source.
Right.
So he says he, talking about me, correctly identifies the power source that ran the processes, nature's electricity, lightning, and telluric currents.
Wow.
So an engineer that designs cogeneration, chemical, and electrical facilities wrote a huge article supporting my work, including the power source from telluric currents and lightning, and also made a video about it that's now available on the Thunderbolts channel. So shout out Andy Hall. And my work has started to get a lot of recognition in the academic community. I've received tons of emails from people that are chemical engineers, petroleum engineers, all sorts of different academic and industrial avenues of people have started to contact me, write me emails saying how my hypothesis make a lot of sense in regard to modern industry. So this isn't just like crazy speculation.
No.
There are actual, again, PhD in physics and math and engineers that are starting to recognize the virtues of this hypothesis. So let's get back to the temperature and pressure within the primary reactor of the Red Pyramid. Okay, so again, I'm just going to run the process again. We're filling it with methane. The methane rises into the upper vault. You then fill the reactors with water, which is going to compress that methane into the upper reactor. Okay, so these are temperature and pressure calculations for the adiabatic compression of methane given the volume of the Red Pyramid chambers. After running these calculations, it came up with the answer that the Red Pyramid can generate. I'm just showing all the work for anybody that wants to pause the screens.
Did you do this with AI?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is one of the great implementations of AI. I think one of the only good uses of AI is for using complicated mathematical computations.
For sure.
So I ran all of the dimensions using the adiabatic compression of methane, and it came up with final reaction temperatures of 500 degrees Celsius and 40 atmospheres of pressure, which is right in the Goldilocks zone for driving these chemical reactions inside of the Red Pyramid. Why do I say the Goldilocks zone? Because anything above 800 degrees Celsius is going to start to degrade the calcium carbonate limestone. So you want to have lower temperatures and as low a temperature as possible. And I'll show research evidence that supports the idea that ammonia can be synthesized at low temperature if you have electric fields and the right catalyst material. The catalysts that are referenced in these research papers are exactly the same type of catalyst that we find in the chemical analysis of the Red Pyramid.
Wow.
So this also gets into the function of the pyramid body, right? So why is there that body surrounding the reaction chambers?
Right.
You have 40 atmospheres of pressure inside of this thing.
Yeah.
So you need a massive structure encasing the reaction chambers to stabilize the reactors while they're in operation, to contain the pressure, to prevent environmental contamination, with the tetrahedral geometry itself being designed for concentrating the electric fields around the reaction chambers. That is the reason for the pyramid shape. That's the reason for the specific geometry of each pyramid and the justification for the massive body of stones to contain the internal pressure.
Right. I want to see this. I want to see this recreation.
Yeah. We'll get to that in just a minute. So this is more research papers. Support effects on catalysis of low temperature methane steam reforming. Basically, these research papers are substantiating my hypothesis that by utilizing the electric fields inside of the structures and the presence of catalysts, we can drive these chemical reactions at much lower temperatures. Because you want as low a temperature as possible. Here again, another research paper, low temperature hydrogen production by catalytic steam reforming of methane in an electric field.
Wow.
This is an article talking exactly about the same process that was occurring in the primary steam reformer. So steam reforming of methane in the presence of a catalyst and electric field. Here's another one, low temperature steam reforming of methane over a catalyst that contains cerium, zirconium, and oxygen. Just so happens, zirconium was also found in the chemical analysis data. So research papers saying that
Backing you up.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, show me this remake.
Always research evidence. You want to jump ahead?
Yes, let's do it.
So we can skip all this stuff.
Okay.
So we're going to fast forward.
People can find all of these links to all this
Correct.
stuff.
Yeah. I have a full episode on the Red Pyramid.
Yeah. People can, if they want to do the research and the corroborating and look at all that, they can do that. I want to show.
You want to see the model. All right. So this is an important part, is the missing component from the secondary aeroformer. So there's something missing from the Red Pyramid, a component that was installed in the secondary aeroformer. And it was a one-way check valve, a pressure-actuated one-way check valve that controlled the distribution of gases into the final synthesis chamber.
Okay.
So during this second stage of the reaction, when the hydrogen and carbon monoxide are transferred into the secondary aeroformer, you don't want it spilling over into the final synthesis chamber. So they have a one-way check valve, and there's abundant evidence in the housings in the secondary aeroformer that there was something there that's no longer there.
You can get up in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
Like ladders
stairs
and shit?
There's stairs in there now. So this is basically...
How tall? Can you walk through that connecting chamber?
Yeah.
It's that tall?
Yeah, you see the guy in there?
Yeah.
That's a
crouch over a little bit?
Yeah, just bend down a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, you can walk through there.
Wow.
But there was a one-way valve, which is not going to be present in the model.
Got it.
And in the process of producing this ammonia, we have carbon dioxide as a byproduct, which is critical for the function of the bent pyramid that's going to use that carbon dioxide byproduct for the production of urea. So it's going to use the ammonia and the carbon dioxide byproduct that was produced in the initial manufacturing sequence, combine those two to create urea.
Okay.
All right. So again, we're speeding through the animation here. Here are more papers corroborating the idea that electric fields and a strontium-based catalyst can be used to drive the synthesis of ammonia at low temperatures. They found that using these catalyst materials, all of which are found in the Red Pyramid, in the presence of an electric field, you can actually start this ammonia reaction at temperatures around 100 C. Very, very low temperature, electric field and catalyst-driven ammonia synthesis that was occurring in the final reaction chamber. So the reason for the excavation in the bottom of the final synthesis chamber is they were following the extraction shaft. That's why they excavated all the stuff. And then the ammonia is extracted from the final synthesis chamber out of that extraction shaft.
Got it.
So here, we'll run the process real quick. Animation showing the entire sequence. Producing the aqueous ammonia that was extracted from the final synthesis chamber.
I see.
Okay.
Wow.
External reservoir. All the Egyptian pyramids had external reservoirs. We talked about this during the function of the step pyramid. Each one of these things being a process unit of this chemical manufacturing sequence. So Red Pyramid Complex, they found that the height of this external wall would have been 11 meters, 33 feet. So again, going back to communication encoded in the structures, 33 feet is 1 atmosphere of pressure.
Yes.
So the height of the external reservoir is telling you that the system is used to create pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So there's mathematical knowledge encoded in these measurements that are telling you exactly what the internal system is for.
Right.
And this reservoir and the water in there being at 1 atmosphere of pressure is telling you that it was creating pressure inside of the pyramid.
Wow.
Okay, so going back to Giza El Mudir, this system could create 900 million gallons. That's how big this thing is.
Wow.
So the volume of water that could be treated in the Giza El Mudir water treatment facility is 900 million gallons. It is a massive, massive structure. 650 by 350 meters.
God damn.
It's huge.
Yeah.
That's the size of this thing. 650 meters long by 350 meters wide, which also happens to correspond to the size of modern water treatment facilities.
Interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting correlation. And the walls were said to be 15 meters wide.
Right.
15 meters wide, the walls of this enclosure.
Wow.
Huge, huge structure out in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we're implementing the external reservoir and the function of the northern pump shaft to introduce water.
Wow, that's how small those chambers are compared to the pyramid.
Correct.
That's nuts.
Yeah. So here we have the filling process where the water is coming from the external reservoir. It's filling the pump shaft. And the pump shaft is utilized to push the reaction into the final synthesis chamber. So here again, we have water. Bent Pyramid has an external reservoir. Great Pyramid has an external reservoir. Central Pyramid has an external reservoir. All of these things, the identical mechanisms of operation. This is the Central Pyramid showing the external reservoir. The water from the external reservoir was utilized in the Central Pyramid for the production of hydrochloric acid. So all of the mechanisms I'm proposing for the function of all these pyramids apply to each structure.
Yep.
Okay, so the pump gives us the exact amount of compression that can push this reaction into the final synthesis chamber. So this goes to the terraforming applications of the pyramids. So by using these cumulonimbus thunderstorm generators, creating thunderstorms and fertilizers, it's possible that the Saharan wet period is a man-made event. Terraforming. So the pyramids were used to make thunder and rainstorms that were combined with these fertilizers to terraform the Sahara and transform it from a desert into arable farmland. That's just a hypothesis.
That's wild.
They say that the Saharan humid period is a naturally occurring event.
Right.
From 8500 BC to 5300 BC.
Yeah.
Which is why I think this is the ideal time period for the operation of the Egyptian pyramids.
Oh, it lines up.
And it's possible that the pyramids themselves and these thunderstorm generator systems were actually producing the rainstorms that transformed the Sahara. And by utilizing these atmospheric nitrates and the nitrates created in the Red and Bent Pyramid, they were able to terraform the Sahara. Type 1 civilization activities.
Right.
Okay, so we already talked about, this is one of the Roman boats.
Oh, okay. That's insane.
The stone moving boats.
Wow.
Huge, huge ships.
Yeah.
And ammonia can be used to process bitumen that would have been utilized in the shipbuilding industry.
To make the ships.
So it's like a big pontoon boat.
Yeah.
Absolutely massive craft.
That's insane.
That would have totally fit in the Nile River. And the Nile River is huge. People have no idea how big the Nile River is until you've actually been on it.
Yep.
And you see how big it was during the actual flood. It was a massive, massive river.
Really?
They could have easily had ships like this.
Wow.
And it's very, very rare that anything made out of wood survives that long.
Right.
So there's tons of applications for ammonia, from leach mining of copper to the shipbuilding industry for processing bitumen, and also for leach mining of copper. So this is ammonia leaching, a hydrometallurgical process where you can use ammonia for leach mining copper.
Right.
Okay, so now let's go to the function of the pyramid body and this. So we're going to stop this, close that, and we're going to pull up the model.
Let's do the model.
Okay. So there's a number of kind of caveats before I run this thing.
Okay.
So first thing, you see here, it's open. to the final synthesis chamber, there would have been a one-way valve.
Got it.
Here that prevented the water from spilling into the final synthesis chamber. That is not included on this model.
Okay.
So you have to keep that in mind.
Okay.
Second of all,
it would have prevented the water from going into there at a certain point.
Correct. Yeah. So you want, again, I sped through the explanation on the red pyramid, which would have prefaced this model discussion. But during the reaction in the secondary air reformer, you want to be able to achieve maximum pressure inside of that secondary chamber. The one-way valve allowed the pressure to be maintained within the second chamber, and then the northern pump shaft was used to push more water into the system to activate the one-way valve and drive the process into the final synthesis chamber.
Okay, I see.
Okay, so remember the function of the pyramid body. Maintaining pressure, internal stability of the reaction chambers, preventing environmental contamination and concentration of electric fields.
Yes.
Okay, so now we're going to run this thing. And remember that the mathematical calculations demonstrated 40 atmospheres of pressure. This model is a 1 to 40 scale model.
Okay.
So the water fills from the inlet chamber at the bottom of the northern descending shaft. And you'll see that water coming into the model here in just a second. And it does exactly what I have proposed it will do, which is fill the connecting shaft between the two reaction chambers. And you can see the water is rising in the pump shaft.
Yep.
Okay.
Why is it two different colors?
It's because of the concentration of the dye. It shows which chamber fills first. There was dye in the water to show the directionality. So the pump shaft is filling on the right.
Yep.
The pressure is increasing. Look at the pressure gauges on the top.
Yep.
Pressure is going up, 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 up.
And it blows the fucking one on top of it.
And the whole system explodes.
Whoa.
So this model, in its spectacular 30-second lifespan, rest in peace, Red Pyramid model, part 2 coming up soon. So in its 30-second lifespan, it corroborated the exact same sequence of operation that I've proposed regarding the fill mechanism. So let's run it again and look at it again.
Okay.
So as the water starts coming in, if you have the one-way valve here, the fill process is going to look the same in here because you're going to have a valve here that prevents the water from spilling over.
Yeah.
So the pressure within these two things would be very similar. So the water would actually rise in a much similar fashion in both chambers if this one-way valve is here. So when this thing explodes, it was at 1 atmosphere of pressure in the final chamber. This is a 1 to 40 scale model of the red pyramid. The mathematical calculations showed that the red pyramid could produce 40 atmospheres of pressure. This model mathematically corroborated the calculations showing 40 atmospheres of pressure at 1/40th scale.
Whoa, dude.
Now, again, why did this thing blow up?
Because it didn't have a pyramid.
Because it doesn't have a massive pyramid around it. So again, this was your conversation on Rogan. He's like, why would they have this massive body of stones surrounding these reaction chambers? There was tons of pressure inside of these systems. And you have to have it encased within a massive body of stone to be able to contain all of those internal forces.
Right.
Not to mention, these chambers can't stand alone. They have to be stabilized by an encased structure surrounding the entire reaction chamber system.
Right. Wow, dude.
So there's a lot of things that this model corroborates.
I wonder if he could reproduce it with the pressure of the pyramid on top of it.
So the next step of this model's existence,
The problem is, how would you watch
will be
everything
encasing it in something. Again, the problem of visibility.
Yeah.
Because if you have even a small chamber that allows you to see into it, I guarantee you the pressure is going to blow out through that.
Yeah.
It's going to explode again.
Yeah.
Which you have to have a massive body surrounding the structure. So this also corroborates, you see here, that the northern pump shaft is also going to fill with water.
Yeah.
Which is essential in driving the reaction into the final synthesis chamber, is the activation of the northern pump shaft. So you can see that as the water builds inside the chambers, the pressure inside this chamber is forcing the water to rise up the northern pump shaft. Then that water and the pressure is utilized to push the reaction into the final synthesis chamber through the one-way valve. A spectacular model.
Wow.
That demonstrates and corroborates the fluid dynamics that I've proposed. It corroborates the pressure. We can't do chemical reactions in this thing because it's made of plexiglass.
Right.
So this goes into a discussion of why can't we build it out of limestone? This took a year to build out of plexiglass.
That's crazy, man.
It would be almost impossible, quite literally impossible, to build this out of limestone. Try it.
Yeah, no.
I would challenge anyone.
It would take forever.
Which is a testament to the fact that the Egyptian pyramids even exist. How the hell did they build these things? We can barely make it today out of plexiglass.
Well, imagine if you had like a real budget.
Yeah.
You know
I mean, this was built, again, John, you are an amazing friend and supporter of the channel. He took his time, in his spare time, and I told him when he started building this thing, I was like, dude, the whole fucking thing is going to explode. I told him that straight up. He's like, no, I'll build it good and I'll put pressure gun. I'm like, dude, just, I promise you, it's going to blow up.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what it's designed to do, is increase the pressure. The only way to contain that pressure is by building it with massive limestone blocks.
It's incredible, man.
In the body of a huge pyramid.
I mean, I don't think anyone's ever taken anything this far when it comes to trying to determine what the process, what the purpose of the pyramids were, man.
Right.
This is insane.
So I want to mention the bent pyramid. Let me pull this back up.
Let's bring it to Giza, to the Great Pyramid and all that.
Yeah. All right. So again, we'll pause here.
What's up, everybody? This podcast was 6+ hours, so we had to cut it in half. Right here, we're going to end this episode, and part 2 will be dropping this Friday. Stay tuned.